6 o'clock, we're gonna get started. Call the meeting to order, roll call.
Dean?
Here.
Grant? Here. Mayor Norman?
Here.
Debbie?
Here.
Bob? Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Alright, we'll do the pledge of allegiance.
Hey, don't move your chair, don't stand up so I know. So use it.
Let me hold the chair.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alright, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted on the bulletin board in the back. It's also available in pamphlet form at the website supplied there. I need approval of minutes for February 11th, 2025 regular meeting. Has people had a chance to look through those?
Why don't we just wait until next time since we just got,
Alright.
they weren't in the email.
We will, table till the next meeting. Reports, golf,
March 4th.
March 4th.
Our next meeting is
Hospital.
They had a very short meeting last night, nothing of importance to mention at this time.
Okay. Zilla.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is the meeting we'll have tomorrow, so they change sometimes hourly. Nursing home, we have 24, 2 of those are Medicare, 10 private, 10 Medicaid, 2 VA, and assisted living, we have 7. We are looking for a bookkeeper, and of course nurses, always. I guess that's basically it for overview.
So, can I ask how we're hiring, or have we started advertising for a bookkeeper?
If we have a we will very shortly.
I'm sorry, if we do, what?
I said we will very shortly if we haven't already. I'm not sure on that. The administrator we have, but I don't know about the bookkeeper yet.
And are you going to be able to provide financials without a bookkeeper at this time?
Well, our provisional can run out of financial.
So tomorrow?
Yeah. And
So
I got
I
one
guess
copy,
Thursday morning.
and I got one copy, and it was for the month. So I asked for another one for the year, and it's printed out different than I'm usually seeing. And I haven't had time to look it over, I just got it tonight. So, we're in the net. I have 2 different figures on here, so I just really don't want to say because, I gotta look at them closer to see.
So basically at this time, we have no report on financials
Yeah, no
at this
report
time.
on that.
Okay,
Cause I got to look more at it.
okay. Anyone else have any questions on it?
Actually, one more. Did we ever get a claim put in for the bathhouse?
Not yet. They're not quite finished.
But
You mean a claim?
The claim for the first tile job that
To
was
the
bad, why we
insurance.
spent
What do you mean a claim?
an insurance claim.
Oh, we got that, unpaid the first guy. When we
No,
hired-
no, but
An insurance claim.
for the work that was subpar on the last deal, or reported redo, or we had to redo it.
we did
So
not
have
submit-
we
No,
submitted
we
it?
did not resubmit.
My understanding was the last villa board meeting last month was the discussion to be had by the villa board, whether you're gonna have Adam take that on through the villa, or the city council was gonna have Adam take it on as a city, but we were gonna get a claim submitted on that to try and get
I
recouped.
didn't, that's not what I understood.
Oh,
I haven't heard anything from Brett either
I-
way, so.
that was the understanding of the council, correct?
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing there, yeah. I haven't heard anything from anybody else, or any commissioners to where it's, wow.
Where is that? Where was it? If you can read it.
Okay. Swan?
We didn't have a meeting this month, Jake's here, I'll let him, when he's up, I'll let him tell you about Swan.
Okay. Number 6, discuss, approve, disapprove changes to the fire hydrant maintenance schedule and updates to the number of hydrants, and if we have a current plan.
Okay, I have done some research on the fire hydrant stuff. I'm gonna read through a couple things here. All right, back in May 10th of 2023, Bill Taylor from the state came out and did a sanitation survey for Crawford. Okay, Crawford received a significant violation, and it reads as such: system needs to maintain a maintenance file and keep track of all maintenance in the water plant and other infrastructure such as wells, fire hydrants, valves, and other repairs. So we received a significant violation on the fire hydrants back in May of 2023. And then we received another significant violation for all equipment should be fixed and maintained, recommendations, items such as leaking air relief valve in the plant, the broken heater, exhaust fans.
So, is this specific to
The
fire
hydrants,
hydrants?
yes.
Hold on, I'm getting there, Shane. Okay. It breaks down the broken heater, exhaust fans in the chlorine room, which I know have been corrected, leaking clay valve, infrastructure building, and broken fire hydrants on McPherson Street. So we had already identified back in 2023, we had broken fire hydrants within the town as well. So I know those have not been corrected.
Hold on. That one has been corrected. I can guarantee that one.
And we did that when we did the big sewer project.
All right,
That's the one
we
in front
made,
of the Saddle Rock that keeps getting ran into?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
just making sure I know which one we're talking
Okay.
about.
all right, the maintenance records, which we've got to start, obviously, we've got to come up with that. I know when we talked to Bill, Bill said that they have to be flushed every year. We need to keep a maintenance log, basically the make, model of every fire hydrant, their location by address, and we need to keep a log of all maintenance that we're doing on those hydrants.
Correct.
Okay.
You want to point in here where that tells me that though?
Oh, hold on, let's not get in a fight.
Because I'm not trying to, I'm just saying, these are the violations that we received.
This is from the
This is
inspector's
Bill's,
office.
the inspector's paperwork, okay?
That is what we are governed by. Point in there and tell me the regulation that says that.
We can ask Bill, Bill's the one that told us, so, and he's
And
the
we looked
one
through
that
that,
said
so
he's
it's
brought
not
it
in
up numerous times.
So what we'll do is we will,
It's not in there.
right,
And maintenance logs for the hydrants, do you have that?
We have some.
Some. Okay, well, I mean, it's been identified almost 2 years ago that we're supposed to have them on every hydrant, so, again, we're hearing this from the inspector, so you can get mad at us all you want.
I'm telling you what my
We're the
rates
ones
are.
that are holding the paperwork that tell us what's been said, not only in May of 2023, but September of 24, and from the inspector's mouth. So I'm sorry you're getting mad at us, but we're not the ones making this up or doing this. Like, this is the reports, this is the inspector, the guy that the city answers to that can shut our water off. So don't throw anything at me, please.
That's the reg that I have to follow.
Like, it's like what we're dealing with. We're trying to get answers to the questions. That's all we're trying to do. Because we say some hydrants. How many hydrants do we have?
As far as I know, 67
Okay,
on my last count. That's not saying that there hasn't been a few updated systems.
okay. And that's a legitimate question that he says the water operator should absolutely know off the top of his head and should be able to answer. And that's why we've asked you and why we keep asking, because we need to figure it out. We gotta be able to answer to this guy.
And I have a gazillion things on my plate. I'm doing the best.
And that's why we tried to get you a labor, which the report also
So,
says.
guys, before this goes too far. So we'll make a plan, we'll get a hold of Bill, you and I, and we'll find out where in your regs he's reading from, and we'll go from there.
Can we also identify the fact that 2 weeks ago, we tried to get you a labor? And that also we have
Did we
found
get
out.
one?
No, this is us sticking up for you. Like,
Okay.
this is a direct request by the inspector that you guys need more help, because it's too much. So,
Here,
we're trying, like,
Before you think we're attacking you, Dennis, I'm not, okay. This same stuff that we're talking about, the same individual, Bill Taylor, back in September 30th, 2024, submitted another findings to the city, okay? And in that, he did say that the city needs to hire a full-time position for the water, labor, and wastewater plant combined. This position under supervision and hands on the help of the plant operator will conduct day-to-day cleaning, maintenance of the plant components, and all outside maintenance. Okay, that was done. Okay, so that's something that was on the last agenda, that was addressed, and I didn't know this at the time, okay? I went through, I had Jody print this out for me earlier today. I didn't know what Bill Taylor's recommendations were and what his findings were. Now that I know that, we will make motions for that, okay? But, going back, there's good and bad, okay? I know you think this is a direct attack. It's not a direct attack. We're just trying to identify where we're at as a town with the fire hydrants. Okay? I know that we are not compliant as per Bill's request on the fire hydrant. We don't have current up-to-date logs. Can you tell me that we have a log from last year, make, model, serial number of every fire hydrant, location, and when we tested?
I have a report from 23 that was done for 22 hydrants. Of those 22 hydrants, it was identified that 8 of them are bad, that we know are bad. And that was brought to the administration at that time.
So you can see
The
where.
way I understand from the lawyer last meeting is that if we don't know about it, we're less liable for it.
what we know about.
Yeah, have we had those fixed in the year and a half time?
Have we?
No.
Okay. Like,
So that was brought to
that's
the
why we are
administration
asking
at the
the
time.
questions we're
So
asking.
my question is, do you want us to keep identifying more that we could potentially be liable for? Or should we wait and fix a few that we have to get fixed now?
I think the answer is, we need to identify every one of them immediately, soon as the weather allows.
So then we can be liable for everything?
We're gonna have to make repairs. I mean, that's the question.
Can I ask from our fellow council members, I mean, we had, obviously Lewis was very serious to the point, like, we've been reported on severe violations numerous times. He's coming out, he told me our water treatment facility is the #1 on his list to try and come and inspect more often than anybody else in his district. It is in just such disrepair and so many things. He goes, the guys have done a great job to clean it up from where it was in 23, but there's so much more to do. They need help. They can't do it all. These things have to be done. The hydrants, he's like, even if it's a simple binder, you have address, location of the street corner, the size of the pipe coming in, how many turns on that hydrant, make and model, and then service records for that. And he goes, and you can keep that binder for 20, 30 years and never be able to fill it up because it's just a flushing once a year.
We
I
have
mean,
that.
we know these issues, and I guess,
We have that.
you just said you don't have it for all the hydrants, correct?
No,
So
I
then
don't-
if we have
I
a
don't-
completely
I-
outdated binder, then we should know how many
I'm not
hydrants.
saying that all of them have been flushed every year or every 6 months or any of that kind of stuff. I'm saying we have that binder, that it has been done over time. It hasn't been every year for all the years, but it goes back to like at least 2011.
But we don't have all the hydrants.
Yes, I'm pretty sure it has most of that, maybe not all of them, but 90% or more. There might be a hydrant here or there that's been added. I have only been in charge of the water plant for a year and a half.
And if we had.
And we
systems
haven't
in place,
had
we'd be able to
enough
answer these
help
questions.
to look at all this shit.
Well, there you go.
Give me the help and we'll have the answers,
That's what
but I
I've been
don't
trying
have
to
the
do.
answers because I don't have the help.
Dennis, at this moment, we're just trying to identify where we stand, okay, as a town on our fire. I'm not saying that it's all your fault,
I'm not
okay?
saying this, I'm saying,
But
I've got
we've
state
gotta
required stuff
identify-
I have to do that is higher on the list than this stuff at the moment.
So, Amanda?
So I know for personal fact, when I worked for the water department, that what you're on them about was done by myself. Fire hydrants that were broke were fixed. I know ones that like Dennis is talking about. So, it has been done. When I worked for the water department,
When was
every
that?
fire hydrant has been checked in this town. Cause I did it before I could go on vacation.
What year was that?
I don't remember.
Well-
Before I had my kid, 9 years ago,
Okay.
at least.
Okay, this,
But I'm just telling you, it was done. So there is somewhere, you just said yourself, that you could do that paperwork and keep it forever and not have to redo it all the time. So that paperwork is done because they've all been tested.
But what I meant by
Because-
that is fill up the entire paper, like,
Correct,
the
but,
paper will last
but
a
I'm
long time,
just,
is all I meant by that, but the work still has to be done. There still has to be.
right, I'm just saying
items
that at
placed.
one point, every fire hydrant in this town was tested, whether
And
it be,
I don't disagree, that's a possibility. We're identifying this now,
right,
not 9 years ago.
Amanda, what, according to this, what the problem is we're supposed to be doing this every single year.
right. I know how hard it is for him to do this, cause it took me 3 weeks to do it.
That's key.
And it's hard
That-
for you guys to bring this up to
that
him
needs to be done
this
every
time of
single
year.
We need to flush them every year.
Amanda, do you remember if you had it in a paper or?
Hold on.
So it was in a
Hold on,
folder,
guys. If you have questions, you gotta raise your hand and stand, please.
and the fire hall should have a map with the fire hydrants
There's a
marked
map
on it.
down at City Hall, but we don't believe it's up to date, and that's why we need to know this information.
It should be up to date because when we did the big water project a few years back, that was all updated.
Edward? you got a
We have been scrubbing through all the paper records we can find. We've been going through every filing cabinet when we get a spare chance. I have stacks of paperwork that mean stuff, don't mean stuff. We haven't had a chance to go through it all. We're also looking for more guidance on what programs these are that maintain and require these requirements. Now, the maintenance requirement you're talking about as a hit has already been solved. It's already in the plant. If you would like to come and see it, that is fine. It's a public record. I would gladly give that over to you. As for the fire hydrants, there's nothing specific stating that we have to have, i.e. fire hydrants. We've been looking everywhere for it because we're looking for guidance. We want to know what this binder is supposed to look like that you're talking about. We want to know what these pages look like. We want to know the difference between testing and flushing. We want to know times that we need to flush them for. We are not trying to shirk this off. We are looking through it, but we've had a real hard go of it the last 2 weeks with the freezes. We have a lot of leaks in town that we're trying to deal with at the moment. And we're sorry, we don't have all the answers that you're looking for right now. And it's really hard when you come to us saying you talked to Bill Taylor. I talked to him this afternoon. we've been in contact with him. We do reach out, and we've been trying to satisfy the questions that you have at the moment. We have the maps that we have. Some of them are hand drawn, some of them are penciled in. We're trying to reach out to the company that actually catted all the maps that we do have as of 2005. So it's in the works, and we'd appreciate just a little bit more time. And we'll try and get you all the answers that you'd like. But if you'd like to reach out to us anytime, we're up in, our normal working hours. Feel free to give us a call, and we can have a conversation about
I don't
this.
wanna take you more time off your plate, but what I just heard from the prior mayor, or one of the prior mayors, is that all this was already done in 23, that everything should be up to date.
Baker's made new plans that show everything that was changed in the sewer system when we did that big project, and it has all of the hydrants and everything on it. It should be the one on the wall at City
So at
Hall.
this point, it should be a non-issue, we should just have,
That's not what anybody's saying.
no,
So
that
it
is,
is, time out.
we should know
Time
where
out.
all the hydrants are from that report, right?
Yeah, it's on the map.
Okay.
So,
No one's saying that this is not an important priority to Crawford. No one has said that. Everyone agrees that this is something that's important, something that needs to be done, something that they're already working on. But it's not okay for you guys to be inappropriate about attacking them like they don't have anything else on their plate. This is an important thing.
What did
They've
we
agreed
attack
last
them?
2 weeks ago that they would work on it. They have been working on it. It's gonna take time to proceed. If you don't wanna come across as attacking, then you need to be cautious of how you present yourself and how you speak to them.
Okay,
Hold
let's,
on,
we're
hold
not.
on. I read directly
That's
from
fine.
this,
I agree. They are
I didn't
concerning.
attack them, I read exactly what was said.
Your delivery's concerning. I'm just saying, if you don't want them to feel defensive, it's in your best interest to make sure you're concerned about your delivery. That's my only perspective on that. But I don't think that anybody has any room to argue. We all feel the exact same thing on this subject. It all is a very important subject. It does need to be completed. They are working on making progress on it. I think that's fair. It's something that has had different surges as far as when we do get ahead, when we do make progress on it, and when it has fallen behind. It's been a roller coaster of progress for many, many, many years. This is no new concept. I do agree that we need to make more progress again, yes, and I think that's the intention behind it. And I'd love to see if we can say that it's updated enough and we can maintain it enough to just keep it that way. I think that's ideal and I think that's great. But I think realistically, we have to be willing to give them more time to get there.
so, I think going forward, we'll sit down, we'll get a hold of Bill, and we'll ask him specifically outline everything of all the regulations on this. Will that work? Alright. Anything else? Alright, number 7, discuss, approve, disapprove hiring Terry Miller as city clerk treasurer at $22.50 per hour for hiring committee.
You said you did some of this homework today, Shane?
I did, do a little homework today, but I mean, I was in on the interview, and this is our recommendation.
Alright. See, this one's a hard one for me, and it's not that I'm not going by the recommended committee. It's just the fact that I know that multiple places that have said that they would never hire this individual again. So that's a concern for me.
Careful as far as personnel,
Yep.
privacy issues.
Yep, and I'm just saying.
Basically, somebody should make a motion and vote no, vote yes at this point.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to go ahead and
If you
approve the
vote no, it's
hiring of Terry Miller at the stated $22.50 per hour for the hiring committee for city clerk / treasurer, please.
I'll second.
So, Brent,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Gibby,
No.
Zabak,
No.
I will say yes. discuss, approve, disapprove hiring Jane Daly at $20 per hour to come in and train the new city clerk treasurer starting February 26th, 2025, tomorrow. And she is strictly for training.
Is Jane here?
She is not.
We were told today that she has not agreed to, or does not have the time, actually, is what she was, has been quoted as saying. I wanna see if anybody has confirmed it,
I talked to her today.
and how many hours is she willing to put in?
I didn't ask specific hours. I talked to her today. She was willing to help train.
I understand that, but my understanding of her quote is basically, she'll help when emergencies arise or severe issues, but she does not have time to train the
Yeah. Okay, Connor.
I talked to her yesterday, I had lunch with her, she's willing to work as many hours as you guys need to get the new person trained.
See, this is just it, we
And
conflicting information.
in my visit with her, she never
But this
brought that
came
up.
from Jane, I don't know, unless you talked to Jane, you really,
Well, it's the same thing as you saying you talked to Jane, the other person said they talked to Jane.
So-
I mean, it's the same thing,
So when I talked to Jane, this was not something she brought up, was that her hours were limited to so many or anything. She stated she will need a longer lunch break on one of the days. Outside of that, she did not voice anything else.
so we have a person already in that position and we don't wanna utilize them to train, we don't bring in another employee.
She didn't agree to it.
Did we ask her?
Yes,
And she said, no, I'm not gonna train anybody,
she wasn't comfortable with that,
with the clerk or the treasurer part, both,
with the training part.
so.
I'll make a motion to hire Jane Daly at $20 per hour to come in and train the new city clerk treasurer starting February 26, 2025, please.
Second.
Frank,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Gibby,
Yes.
Yes.
Alright. Number 9, accept resignation from interim clerk treasurer Jeannie Diger to transition to part-time public transportation driver at $14 per hour starting February 26, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve the acceptance of the resignation from the interim clerk treasurer Jeannie Dager to the transition to part-time public transportation driver at $14 per hour starting February 26, 2025, please.
Second.
Grant,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Gibby,
Yes.
and Joel.
Yes.
Right. Number 10, discuss, approve, disapprove quote from Floyd's Truck Center for repairs to the Chevy dump truck.
Since Tim's not here, do you have any comments, Kevin, on this?
I have no comments. I heard it'd be up to $4,000, and that wouldn't be hard quote, that would be up to.
The estimated total's $4,013.35 on what they sent us.
Well, that's where it is, right?
Yes,
It's
sir.
sitting down there waiting on our approval,
Yes,
and they're the only ones that answered the phone. So I'll make a motion to approve the repair to the dump truck at Floyd's Truck Center.
Dean,
Yes.
Bach,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Gibby,
Yes. You feel good? Give that one.
Number 11, discuss, approve, disapprove hiring an electrician to troubleshoot, repair anode, and installing corrosive resistant wiring inside the water plant.
So this is not an electrician thing, this is a chemical composition of the water. We need to send a water sample to Casper, isn't it? Isn't that where the lab is?
I think that's where Guideline is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they will analyze the water and tell us what type of anode we need, because the ones that we have been using are magnesium, right?
They are magnesium. Magnesium, the way I understand it, is the best anode to use.
But if our water is high in magnesium, then it's not hungry for magnesium.
Potentially correct.
Right.
Edward,
I have good news. I did reach out to the builder of our plant and I have a consult with them later this week. They will come out and do a corrosion and an assessment of the plant. It was built 25 years ago. We are kind of reaching the end of the life cycle on a lot of these materials. But I have the actual people who built it now. The gentlemen who were involved in the physical building of the plant have all moved on, but they do have a lot of O&M records, and they have a lot of records as well. So if we can kind of piggyback with them and start working with them, hopefully we can get a lot more knowledge and better knowledge and kind of get caught up. We did make that phone call this afternoon. He should be getting back to me tomorrow, and I will have an appointment set up with him later this week, and we'll be able to bring something to you guys next week with a more conducive kind of we'll try to bring you more on that topic next week or 2 weeks from now.
Chris, did you talk to Jared Allen on this?
Huh?
Did you talk to Jared Allen on this?
Yeah.
Like him going and looking at it?
Well, he looked
He
at
came
it.
and looked at it, he gave us a good
But
report.
so the question, I guess, is it his brother-in-law or his brother used to be water treatment operator?
No, his
He's
brother is
chemical
a mechanical engineer.
That used to be involved with the water treatment facility?
Correct.
Okay,
Something
so,
outside, long confirmed with them. We also touched out with chemical engineers, metallurgical engineers. We touched base with, Bill Taylor, we touched base with.
yeah, I'm not disagreeing with
Water.
any part of the plan, I just wanted to put it on record as far as, after he talked to him again, he said that the facility that his brother worked at, every year, they either updated the materials in the anodes or the line, so.
Correct. And in our,
Which we have not.
our stuff says it's supposed to be updated yearly. We've dug it up for the last 2 years. It didn't appear to be deteriorating like it should be. So we thought we had electrical issues. We got
So just
that
so we have
sorted.
that, like, in our maintenance.
Yeah.
And we have also reached out trying to find new anodes as well to see if we can't just swap out what we got and see if we can't get some better luck moving forward with that. But it is on one of our front burners, and it is something that's in the front of our minds more.
In the meantime,
But the
should
fact
we
is-
send off the water sample to get it tested, just so we have that?
Yeah, we've got to set up, the sample and that kind of stuff. Whatever, yes.
We can reach out to the lab and see if they'll send us the sampling kits that we would need to do that sample, if that's what you guys would like us to do. I am completely unclear on what that would cost us.
I think that right now we need to wait and see what the company that built it has to say. And, you know, Dennis and Edward and I, we've had discussions about, the fact that our filtration system and all the piping in the building is nearing the end of its life. And, you know, we're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do there. Maybe there's a possibility that some of that piping we can have sleeved and get a few more years out of it, but the filters itself are, well, they're made out of a new material now. They're not made out of aluminum, they're made out of stainless steel with a
Epoxy coating.
And because they've ran into issues with the aluminum deteriorates over time.
Absolutely.
The water just eats the aluminum away. So that's something that this council's really gonna have to start thinking about. And the fact that we are now maintaining our system does set us up for possible grants, where a couple of years ago, when we have a 90-page citation, failure to maintain, you aren't eligible for grants, so.
The Johnson Company is in the area at the moment as well. They're the ones who sleeve the pipes. We have been in contact with them. We can reach back out to them as well and maybe get some quotes or information on sleeving some of the water pipes. They did say that we would kind of forego a mobilization cost. It was just something we didn't bring up at the time because we know money's tight.
Well, what was that, that T that you guys replaced?
Yeah.
The valve? Is it a valve or just a T?
We
It was
replaced
just a
the
T.
Between the valves. Well, I think we replaced one of the valves time, but yeah, I mean, it was pretty.
I got the opportunity to look inside that thing, and it's very deteriorated, and that's just gonna tell you what the rest of that piping looks like as well, so, it is something that we're gonna have to talk about.
So at this time, no action.
Should have had action in a couple weeks to the table.
We can bring it back in a couple of weeks if they have answers.
We can bring it back as a corrosion assessment if you'd like, instead of a hiring of electrician.
Okay, I guess I'll change it to table it.
Make a motion to table then.
I'll make a motion to table it.
So, Dean,
Yes.
Buck,
Yes.
Brandon,
Yes.
Did we table the hydrants or?
On the hydrants,
Did we do no action with a bill?
I stated, myself and, Dennis will be together with Bill and mine, all of it.
That's a course of action, is what I did.
It wasn't tabled and no action was stated, I can go back and state no action on 6 at this time.
Just was clarified for the motion.
Number 12, discuss, approve, disapprove request by White River Wasippi Representative Bart Torbert for assistance from park employees in the Wasippi area in preparation efforts in advance of their event scheduled for June 28th through the 29th, 2025.
Yeah, I'm Bart Corbett, I'm the treasurer of the White River Wasippi. We put on the Native American powwow in the summer, every summer here in the city park. And as said, this year is scheduled for June 28th, 29th. I'm here as a follow-on to a meeting at the park board earlier this month.
Okay.
That during that meeting, myself, Angie Taylor, and Junior Hammaker were there to discuss the relationship of our organization and the park and the city. We did bring up the issue of our memorandum of understanding. That was put together multiple city councils and multiple park boards before, and so we figured we were needing to sort of review the relationship between our organization and the city. One of the points within the current memorandum is that the organizations like ours that have access to use of the city park area, like the rodeo board, the motocross area, that each group was responsible for the landscape maintenance for their area. Now, I don't want to put in words into the park board's mouth, they can speak for themselves, but the idea did come up that might be a good idea if the park maintenance people would do the entire area and take off the responsibility from the individual groups, just to have a unified plan so it all gets done the same way and done properly. Now, from that discussion, I was asked to bring to the council at least what our ideas are of what we would need to do the landscape maintenance to get our area prepared for our powwow. So let me pass that around to the council. So what we have is two issues, the weeds and then just mowing the grass. And I came up here with, from our discussions at the park board meeting, the idea of a pre-emergent for the weed spraying, especially the sticker plants. I'm not sure what the right name is for those. Our dance area is really not good. There's weed spraying, there's grass cutting, and there's mosquito spraying right before the event. This is like our thoughts. Obviously, it has to work with the park department to sort of see what really should be done. But doing this for us opens up a whole can of worms of the relationship with the other organizations that have parts of use parts of the city park. So this comes into the whole idea of should all of the memorandums of understanding be reviewed to see really what the relationship is between these organizations and the park and the city and the use of the park and who does what. So I'm not expecting action on this today. I just wanted to put forward what we see our needs to properly prepare our area and let the city work with the council, work with the park board to see really what, not only relationship with us, but for everybody else. Like I said, there was this idea that just we need one single maintenance plan and one single group of people doing it so it's done correctly, particularly when the issues are of licensing of use of chemicals. So.
So just seeing this come across the agenda, I had just a few questions.
Okay.
I think there's quite a few, just a handful of things that we need to consider. Are these things that you guys feel that you've done consistently over the last few years that you've had contract with the city? What you're asking us to do?
We have not done the pre-emergent weed spraying. Our weed spraying has been probably pretty anemic just because we just didn't have the licenses for the really good stuff, and particularly considering that we're on the banks of the White River. But the mosquito spraying and the grass cutting we've been taking care of.
Okay.
And I might have to say that Clayton Grant has done a very nice job of pitching in when he could.
Appreciate that. The contract that you have with the city at this time does not require you guys to make a payment for that contract, correct? You just have
Yes.
access to the land.
Yes.
You don't have to help pay
Yes.
for like a rental fee or
Yeah, no,
you
but
agree
that
on?
does bring up sort of what needs to be discussed for reviewing the memorandum of understanding, because there is an issue of camping fees. That during our events in our area there, we control the idea of camping fees, which we don't charge, but sometimes it spills over into the rest of the park. And so how does that work? The area is wired for electricity. Who pays for that? We have essentially 4 slots for RV that could be used elsewhere during the year. Does the city pay for the rental for that? Do we split it with the cheapie? Those are sort of kind of open-ended issues that we need to address.
Sure. I would even say that that's fair for consideration and appreciated. Something that comes to mind is, do you guys feel you would have it within your means as far as budget, that if we were to consider taking over these requirements for you, could you entertain rent for that land then? So that way we have something to combat the cost or help assist with the cost of additional help.
It depends how much you're thinking.
Sure.
We are very tight on money.
A lot of them are, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just, on line 3, it says that you should be responsible for electricity. Have you not paid the city electricity in the past?
Let me see what the wording on this.
3.
That is true. That's the way things are now.
Have you paid electricity in the past?
Yes, we have.
Do you know roughly how much that cost has been?
It's 25, well, I don't know what it's charging now, but back then it was like $25 or $26 a month, just flat fee a month. And I don't think there was that large of a payment above that for the month or so we had it on.
Yeah, because we're able to turn it off in that area for a lot of the year, I believe, so it doesn't have to be year-round charge.
But there's a whole issue of whether you want to leave it on to encourage RV camping in the area.
Would you be comfortable with us
Yes.
using that lot for RV camping when you're not using it?
Yes,
Okay.
I think that's okay with us.
Good to know.
We're trying to figure out ways to get that area better, not only for us, but for the use of the community as a whole. And so, yes, that was something we kind of had in mind of that area being used for RV parking the rest of the year.
And you guys do two events, right?
No, it's one event, 2 days.
2 days. Okay, for some reason I was thinking you had one in like the spring and then.
No, I mean, that's another issue of upgrading our harbor, because right now the structure does not have a permanent roof. We put tarps on top of it for shade, but we would love to be able to get to the point where we've got the money to essentially rebuild it, to have a permanent roof on it, which would allow it for not only our use, maybe multiple times, but also the community at large to use it more.
Now, if we put a roof on that would probably kill the grass there. Do we have plans of what you'd need to have for the grounds so that it would be
Probably just
cooperative to what your event?
fine gravel or something like that.
That would be cooperative with your event,
Yeah.
okay.
recycled tire playground stuff, something like that.
Okay.
Is what we would need, and some sort of weed control in there. But yes, that would be
So
part of
essentially,
an upgrade.
we need to get together and try to come up
Or,
with a new, updated agreement. I said essentially need to get together and come up with a new updated.
yeah, that's what we pass on to the park board at the meeting, and to start that process going.
Okay.
So I guess I'd make a motion to move forward with the process of reworking the agreement.
Sabrina,
Yes?
Bob,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
and Gary.
Yes.
So I will try to get to the next park board meeting, and I guess if you could if the council by then could sort of express its ideas to the park board. So I think this is, once again, we're just one organization that has this issue as far as what the relationship is. And so we're willing to be guinea pigs for a new type of agreement, but just, what happens is gonna have a ripple effect upon the other groups.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 13, discussion presentation from Jake Stewart with Swan regarding changes and updates to Swan policies.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. And just to kind of touch a little bit before I move on to 13, you guys have me for 13 is 12. If you guys want to really look into, sir, maybe tapping into a little bit more of those tourism funding, the Dawes County tourism funding. I think that's important, especially when it comes to structures or something like that.
Oh, sorry.
Dawes County tourism is what I'm hoping maybe you can tap into some more resources, especially when it comes to structures.
The tourism ones only pay for advertisement.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a Keno Fund application, which hopefully that will be approved, turned in to deal with structure.
Sure.
The Dawes County Improvement Fund gave us several years ago $11,000, which ran electricity in. So I'm hoping that if we get some other funds, we do a lot of grant requests, and we can hopefully get a fund started. We have enough to run our program, plus a little on the side to start building up for arbor improvement. And then that point would be talking to other sources like the county improvement fund, or Keno funds, or whatever, if anyone has any ideas where else there might be some money stashed away.
Thank you, sir. All right, council, thank you for having me here. We have passed First Swan, and I am Jake Stewart, Executive Director for Swan. I sat on the board of Swan for 13 years before becoming the Executive Director. In December, we passed our 1 year serving the community of Crawford. So I think it's important to kind of start a new sunrise. Swan's been around for 33 years, and I don't think anybody's ever come to your meeting, okay? Now, it was a little different back then. You had a collection hauler, and then you just paid disposal, okay? But we're all one now, along with the village of Hemingford has come all aboard, okay? So we kind of got hit really, really fast, really hard when I got in there. That's a lot of towns that just collect all of a sudden and be traveling and trying to put an old truck into use to do that. So I just want to make sure that I reach out yearly. I come to your meetings. I reach out to the public for any concerns, questions that the public may have, or the council. I know Mr. Dean sits on the Swan board. Ms. Grant has also been to some of those meetings, and so does Mr. Norman. So, I mean, it's a great group, okay? We're here to get rid of your waste. We really consider ourselves, we're kind of working with the state. We're an above ground utility, okay? You got your lights, you got your gas that comes in, you got your sewer system that carries waste underground. We carry all your waste above ground and we bury it properly in a permitted site, okay? These sites that we just get permitted for, we just got approved for our landfill for the next 5 years. That has to go through the state of Nebraska. It is one of the most unique premier sites you will find in the United States. Most sites have to have a liner that protects the water around them, protects the people around them. We have a 600-foot natural clay pot that we are burying trash in. I call it Mars. Okay, sooner or later, there's gonna be a lot of people, they're gonna be bringing their trash. So I'm hoping the next decade, we start looking on, let's get other people's trash, let's bury it there. The people in the beginning knew exactly what they were doing when they drew the line from South Dakota and Nebraska. They got all the rock, we got the gumbo. Okay, but sooner or later, they're not gonna wanna have trash in Black Hills, and they're gonna have it done to us, okay? So it's the perfect place, that's why I call it Mars, to bury it. So I just like to, I was in Rushville last night, I just kinda opened it up, if that's okay with you, council and Mr. Mayor, if there's any questions, concerns, anything that you guys think as a community that Swan needs to be doing differently, I would sure entertain that, I would like to hear that type of stuff.
I have a question,
Yes, sure.
Where are you supposed to put tumbleweeds? I talked to the driver, he said we can't put it in the grass one, and I said, then where do we put it? And he said, you put it in the household one. Well, household one says you can't put it in there.
Yeah, so tumbleweeds are tricky, okay, because tumbleweeds come in all sizes, we all know that, okay? One of my biggest things when I get on the radio, doesn't matter if I'm at the Twister or in KCSR, the reason we talk about compost is we're talking about soft material, okay? We're talking about stuff you can take between your hands and rub it till it turns to almost nothing. Tumbleweed with some of those stems gets to be a nightmare. Really, you know, if you run it over with your lawnmower, kind of broke it down into smaller pieces. Some of those tumbleweeds you can run over the lawnmower, some of them you can't.
Yeah.
Some are pretty thick. So if you do have some of those thicker ones, the brown dumpsters where they need to go. They can be smashed in there. Now, tumbleweeds are just like, I consider them branches. They can be hauled out to the brush pile, and we can actually burn those.
Okay.
So you've got some options there, but yeah, it's tricky when we get thick material, especially like lilac bushes. People think those go in the green dumpsters. Well, Crawford has brand new green dumpsters, okay? Through the grant that they received from NDEE, okay, we have the perfect opportunity to start making more of that compost. And the trick is when we have thick branches that come in there, we're digging those all out by hand. Okay, along with the aluminum can bags, along with the trash that people put in there from Gordon to Harrison. I mean, it happens in every community. And it's just that educational piece that we want to get out to people. When that big yellow sign says grass and leaves only, that's kind of what we need. Okay, unless you want to run it over with the lawnmower, and then I get you to throw it in.
Where do we put, spray paint cans?
Did you say
Spray paint cans.
Spray paint cans, just rattle cans?
Rattle cans.
And they're
Even if
empty?
they've got, even if they've still got spray paint in them. Like they've been frozen and thawed several winters.
So then
the
your
spray
top
paint
doesn't
is
work
not
or,
good.
or anything like that. So the trick is I would love to say you can get, that's a great question. So we need that can evacuated somehow, okay? And I don't want you going out like my brother when he was 8 and chopping it with an axe.
Yeah.
Okay? So you come around the corner and he's chopped red paint that's come up his face, up the end of the axe. It gets a little worrisome. So somehow you gotta evacuate it. We've had everything from the state.
So you can't just throw it in the dumpster is what you're saying?
You can, because they're not under really enough pressure where they're gonna blow our safety glass.
So it's not,
Evacuated as much
it's not
as
like putting an air
possible.
tank in there?
That's exactly right.
Okay,
It's not like
that's what
propane or anything.
that's what I was worried about.
Yeah, try to evacuate anything like that to the point, even those little camping, those little Coleman, they've got a release valve on them. Paint's different, it gets sticky, you can't get rid of it, you got half a can
Okay.
of junk that you need to get rid of. Try to get as much out as you can, and that can go in the ground dumpster.
Shoot a hole in it.
Shoot. Target practice, that is exactly.
Take it out those feet.
Yeah, our metal recyclers, like, please just go out and shoot these. Well, I'm not gonna turn people around with a propane tank that they got from Pump and Pantry and tell them to go do that. Not everybody's gonna do it.
And what about if the dumpster behind my house is kind of sinking in the mud a little bit?
Sinking in the mud?
Yeah.
Okay, so the collaboration between city, okay, and counties and Swan comes together. Every city has to provide us with reasonable right-of-way. Okay, so the trick is just getting with Tim getting with Jimmy, the driver, and just making sure we get some kind of pad. We're gonna kind of go around, we've got a few steep hills in Crawford. They've been built up on old railroad ties, pallets, tires, everything you can think of. We're gonna have to kind of work together. We do have a kind of a bobcat that we're gonna probably be bringing to these communities. Crawford doesn't have one, they just have a large loader, and so you can't get into some of those alleys and make that 90 that you need to. So it'll just be working, building some kind of base. I had a call from a guy that I worked with, Mike Riddleson, from Crawford here, and he said when he opened the lids the other day, he could see the tires through the bottom. Okay, well, that dumpster needs to come out. That's the type of call I need to make sure we get you something else.
Excellent.
Yes, working on base, and that'll just be with the city.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever, or is it profitable to consider recycling?
Recycling? Yeah. Okay, so
We
each
don't have
town,
dumpsters here anymore.
yeah, so each town can start that process, and you know Shadron does that. Every third Saturday, Shadron, glass, newspaper, plastic, everything like that, cardboard, you can take over to Nebraska Bank and do that. Now, it was really rolling, really nice, and they were taking it to Alliance every week. Now they're stockpiling it. Now they have no idea what to do with their cardboard because it's worth nothing. Okay, so now all those nice little baskets that Shadron had sitting next to the dumpsters at the schools, they're heaped over and they're falling on the ground.
So you're saying that it's not well, I don't care about profitable, but it's not something to
Now,
do?
Well, they got a leak against me.
well, and the thing is finding the time. So if we get enough plastic together, then like on a Wednesday or something, we can make a bale. But you have to have a semi-load of that stuff to get it out, and right now it is worth nothing.
Okay, so
So-
it's not.
Yeah, somehow, here's the thing, they take it to Alliance, where it goes from there, folks, I have no idea.
Okay, last question.
Your landfill.
No.
So my dumpster up at the water plant,
The water plant, yes.
it sits on the hill. Is there any way we could get a dumpster that maybe has like a rod to keep the doors closed so we're not blowing trash all over the city?
Sure, yeah, we make those, they're called a flip lock mechanism. We do them usually for commercial businesses with you guys. It would just be the cost of the city. We charge everybody, it doesn't matter where we put them, they're $100 to put in. But they've got a reverse flip lock, which means you don't have to be there for the driver.
Oh, perfect.
When it turns upside down, it flips upside down backwards and it dumps open.
Okay.
He
Yeah,
sets it back down and locks.
when the wind blows, sometimes the trash comes back out.
We've actually been working on some other stuff. I'll get with Jimmy and Jay over there. We've got some different dumpster, lids are kind of getting hard to find. We're running some stuff that they're kind of phasing out. And what we might do is get you some metal lids.
Oh, that'd be cool too.
That are heavy.
Excellent.
So,
Jake, what's the correct protocol for disposal of fireplace ash?
fireplace ash. Once it's cold, you mean, Councilman?
Yeah, well, yes.
Okay, and I speak of that because of the fires we've had recently in Crawford and Whitney of the hot ashes that have burned our lids off and, you know. So,
Better set it outside for me.
hot ashes, okay, once they are cool, okay, and this, I know this seems weird, but this is what they taught us in Idaho. If you can't stick your hand in it, it's not ready to be dumped. Okay, it has to be cold, seriously, it has to be cold to dump it. Out at the community site is where you need to bring that. Once it is cold, Tommy will have you dump it right in the CD box. That way it can go right to the permitted landfill. Okay, every burn barrel in the state of Nebraska, you can still burn your trash. First off, you gotta get a permit from your local fire chief, which there's a state fire ban, so that's gonna be pretty tough unless there's a lot of snow. But every burn barrel in the state of Nebraska has to come to a permitted transfer station or landfill. State law. Okay? It's all in Title 132. But bring those out there, Tommy will get them in the right box once they're cold. But please just try to make sure that you're very, very diligent about making sure that they are cold. Because they do cause issues. The last one we had was well, it would have been Whitney, so it would have been John coming back through. He picked up the community site at Crawford, and on the fourth dumpster in Whitney, when he picked it up, it's full of hot ashes. So what that makes us do is we run right to the community site in Whitney, we gotta dump it on the ground, we gotta call Crawford Fire Hall. That's what we have to do to put it out, okay? Because we don't wanna burn up a $250,000 machine. So, But Tommy will take care of you, or any community site, if you're from Harrison or closer to Shadron or wherever, but those community sites are.
The brown dumpster is not the place for ash ever.
Ever. I would rather have it, Jay and I have talked about this, I'd rather have it in the community site, in the CD box.
Perfect.
So, question on this, I heard the rural routes are done, and I know we're the town, but not rural.
Okay.
Is there anything we can do at the community dump site to increase size on the part of the city or anything for increased number of
So you've heard
dumpsters?
you mean as far as stump sanitation,
Yeah.
closing their doors?
I've heard that, I don't know.
Okay.
100%.
As far as I know, they're back up and running.
Oh, okay.
As of a week ago, they're back up and running. Truck is fixed, they're back up and running,
Okay.
because he had to bring 3 full truckloads of stuff that had been cleared in South Sioux County for almost 6 weeks.
Okay,
As far as I know, they're still running.
okay.
Once he stops, if the, if the material or the size starts overloading that, we're gonna have to get with the city and add more dumpsters.
Yeah.
Yeah, or we're gonna have to increase the hours that we serve you guys,
Okay.
okay? And that's always something we have to look at as a community.
Well, I think what the mayor is referring to is, the brown dumpsters outside the community site that are constantly
Just having enough
full.
volume.
Right, so
Yep.
yeah, I didn't know if we needed to, at
'Cause
some
then they-
point, get together and increase size or
They
the
come
way
into
stuff's
town
set up.
and fill up our dumpsters in the park, and they fill
Well,
up our
it's hard
commercial
when they come to
dumpsters.
town and there's nowhere to dump, cause those are.
Right.
Oh, I've seen many in community building.
Yep. And that's tricky, is just trying to get people to the right thing, learning the hours, and I don't know, Jody, is there a way to open up another tab on that screen? Is there a way to do that?
Yes, stand by.
Could you just bring up Swan with 2 N's, sites.com? Yeah, right there. Okay, so if you ever get on there and if you just Google Swan, sometimes it takes you to this awful, ugly site that's just blue with numbers from 1996. Okay, if you find that, just hit refresh. Okay, this is what you should see. You should see that new logo up in the corner with the sun and Nebraska, and then it's got a library. It's got all the information you could ever imagine, where to take place, hours, and that's always something we have to look at. If our communities start growing and we need to change hours, we're gonna have to do it. We gotta serve you guys, we gotta serve Harrison all the way to Gordon. Okay, we've gotta be able to give the folks in our area enough time to dump, but get familiar with that. That's kind of the call, somebody shows up, I showed up on Monday, I've always taken my trash on Monday. Please, get familiar with your hours, okay? Crawford's closed Monday, Tuesday, and a lot of that comes into, I have one guy to work that, okay? So I can't work one guy 7 days in a row. That gets a little tough, and I gotta be very careful on hours if I'm trying to keep rates down, as far as benefits, everything like that. Now, Tommy falls in that 30 hours, so he's, that's considered full-time, so we can take care of a community like that, so.
Ronnie?
Okay, question. Well, not question, just pointing out something to you. I worked out Swan for 6.5 years.
Yes, sir.
When I originally started there, they only had 10 outside.
Okay.
When I left, do they still not have 16?
That they should still have 16. It's
Right.
right 15 to 16 of those dumpsters. I know we took one out because of that fire. Yeah, so, I mean,
Okay.
we've tried to increase that volume.
Is it going on with the mayor, is it feasible to get some more out there? Or is it a point of not having enough to do that?
Oh, you mean as far as our inventory?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
no, inventory isn't, I mean, we just gotta weld bottoms. It's just finding the time to make sure that we get you the right, right equipment, the right inventory, get it painted up, get stickers and stuff on there. But that's always something we can look at. That property of the city, maybe we need to lengthen that. Maybe we need to make that turn just a little bit longer, which all we'd have to do is work with the city and the county, because that is a county road that goes by it. So there's options, make that, or you're open, or we educate the public that, mattresses, frames, dressers, stuff like that, don't go in those dumpsters. Wait till Tommy's open and bring them inside. A lot of times, that's what's taking up most of the space, is just large items that don't belong in there. Just take them inside, we'll get that box, as soon as he calls it in, we have those changed out within a day.
Okay, other question is, you know, you just kinda topped on it, you know, to express the people of washers, dryers. When I worked out there, we had refrigerators and so forth out in there. The other thing you kinda topped on was, hours. You know, I understand, you know, when I worked out there, we had two of us. I worked week and we had a guy work weekends. Is it possible to get those hours opened up? Because, you know, even when I worked out there, and I've been gone 2 years, I think. You know, the ranchers and stuff complain that, when they change the hours, they don't have the opportunity of going out there, you know, cause 3 o'clock is out the world.
Sure.
You know, 9 o'clock, you know, a lot of them love that, but that 3 o'clock, is it possible to get some extension on that?
So how I'm gonna answer that question is I will work with your representative. If they believe that our hours are too short to serve this community, and the reason that I made the change in the hours is Swan community sites are all over the place. You could look up a sheet and some were 8 in the morning till 11 and they had an hour and a half lunch. They're all over the place. Let's get something normal. And that's why most of it is if you go to Harrison or Crawford or Rushville or everything like that, they're all set. Hay Springs, they've got those set hours, that 9 to 3, that 6-hour window. Yeah, it's a little inconvenient. That's why I wanna make sure, like on sale day, that has made probably the biggest difference is getting back open on Friday. Why they had closed that 8 years ago, I have no idea. They were worried that they were getting too much stuff in from ranchers. Well, ranchers are part of this community. We want them coming to town because we want them spending money here. You know, that Friday's important. So I think that's really alleviated some of that congestion with materials and stuff to get out there. That's something I can always look at budget time if we need to make some changes. But I will work with the board as far as representation and making sure that we can afford that through our budget.
Jake, I got a question.
Sure.
Concrete, disposal of concrete, because hopefully the city of Crawford will have some concrete work going on here soon. Where do we dispose of that currently? And
Okay.
is there a chance that we could expand concrete out here?
Yeah, so you guys still own that part clear down there behind the sale barn. It's down there by the tracks. When you guys start digging up streets and stuff, that community site, there's no way to hold that much concrete. So we're gonna have to go back down to the east to do that. We have started a pile for brick and stuff, and mortar and block and everything like that inside the community site. But when you guys start a project, we're really gonna have to get it moved down there to the east. Here's my biggest hurdle in the next 2 years is working with every single city, municipality, village, everything, and we're gonna have to write a grant for crushing that concrete. We're gonna have to. We are getting overwhelmed. Harrison's is huge, okay? So I put in for a grant that was last year for the village of Harrison and the village of Hay Springs. For those two, the bid that came back was $500,000 just to crush those. State doesn't just give those checks out. So we are gonna have to just all come together and say, here's the phase. We're gonna start east or west, and we're gonna work all the way through Swan. So with that interlocal agreement, that'll help us out a bunch.
Is there a possibility that if they crush the concrete, you can resell it as gravel?
Resell it, or we give it back to cities so they can use it for infrastructure.
Whatever, because it can be
Absolutely, it's ours. It would be ours after that
used. That way
grant.
you can recoup some of that money.
That's exactly the plan.
So the other thing is we stockpile it and then we could sell it next time there's a big flood somewhere, cause riprap is always needed for.
I hope we don't have a big flood.
Well,
And this-
somebody's gonna have one somewhere.
On that $500,000, like, is that by the how much metric ton, like? is
Yeah,
that-
they, by the yard. Yeah,
And
that's
what's
it.
the charge right now on that, or?
What's the charge on
To
that?
crush that, like, do you have an estimated cost on that? or-
No, so it was the volume that I had turned into Eddie Bittner, Heat Springs, and that was what he came back with, 500. I can get you that number of what he's looking at.
And did that include
Just like
rebar, or is
anything.
that just concrete?
What's that?
Did that include rebar? or
Yeah,
just
that
concrete?
included pulling magnet and
Okay.
everything, cause that, you definitely wanna do that.
Well, yeah, no.
Okay, we had a company, in Shatter that did pull the metal. Swan did about 10 years ago. We had a company come in, they pulled all the metal. And I can tell you the concrete that got dumped at the Legion, okay, when I worked across the alley there, I picked out ring shank and metal for 8 years, cause they
The
didn't.
railroad has big magnets.
Yeah, so that's very important, but yeah, it's expensive, but I can get you that per yard.
Yeah, just because I think the main reason Scott was asking is the rodeo grandstand possibly, if that were to ever come down, that's estimated to be 650,000 pounds, not including rebar. So,
To get
I
rid of
mean, it's a good sized project, and it'd be nice to be able to try and possibly come up with some sort of.
If we can recycle it, remember, okay, solid waste with NDEE has a different aspect when it comes to block, mortar, and brick, okay? You can actually take that and use that as riprap, you can fill holes with it, you can do all sorts of stuff with it. There's no limitation on that, you can take that out to ranches and everything. Now, construction debris, no. Once it hits the ground, there was a house that caught fire here in Crawford, everybody knows that. Okay, the folks got a hold of me, they were hoping they could take it to another parcel and bury it, absolutely not. That construction debris has to go right to a permitted landfill. Right there, okay? But block, brick, everything like that's got different, so. We could always get rid of it, but it'd sure be nice to recycle that stuff and reuse it in the streets. And that's what my whole goal was with that grant, get that sent off to NDA and the state. Let's reuse it because we don't have the money and the resources to be bringing in all this limestone all the time. I wish we did. Okay, wish we were South Dakota and Hot Springs, we'd have Red Rock roads and everything, okay? We just don't, and it's expensive. So, anything that we can recycle like that material and reuse is great.
Question.
I don't have a question, but since it has been a year, I would just speak up, and I've had multiple individuals from the community come up, just say how much they appreciate Swan and the job that they've done, and it's very quiet, very effective, very efficient, and much appreciated. So if you just want to forward on those words, I know there's been many people that have come forward and spoke those words, and I'm sure you guys would appreciate to hear them too. So.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that. So, and it does make a difference when you're in town twice a week, all year long, twice a week, and it's the same dates, and it's the same times, and it just keeps going. The people of Hemingford couldn't believe it, you know, because theirs was picked up anywhere but started at 2:30 in the morning. And so that starts banging outside your windows, but that's, Ralph's the best there is. I mean, that's how he did. He went to work at 3 o'clock, and that's when the trash got picked up. But what they appreciate, just like Crawford, is that schedule, always knowing. If you're a daycare, you know when that dumpster is gonna get picked up, you're not guessing. Okay, that's a big thing, you can plan on that waste, you can plan, your neighbors, you know, that's got a daycare might have that dumpster filled, and you can walk the extra 50 or 100 feet to it, so.
Thanks
It's
for
nice.
fixing mine.
What's that?
Thanks for moving mine today.
Did we get that moved? All right, I put a face to a name. Yeah. If there are any more questions, I just want to make sure, when you read this here, updates of Swan, you know, that website, that's the biggest thing. If you can push people to that, boy, that just takes a lot of time and effort. The information's there. Get on there, learn that website, learn the hours, learn what you can and can't do, our restrictions, our regulations. And then as far as policies, that wasn't in to scare anybody. We're just trying to make sure insurance-wise, we're eliminating any kind of hazard or anything that might put those drivers in danger. Okay, next time you're going down an alley, just look at the 100 things they could hit. There are things sticking out of the ground to their left, their right, up, above, everywhere. And those guys are picking up, you know, some of them are picking up 400 dumpsters a day. Okay, in their first route going into Gordon. There's a lot of things to hit. So just be, you know, mindful that if we do see a hazard, we need to move something out curbside. Sometimes that has to happen. But Shadron probably has more curbside than any other towns put together. Because they just build houses back to back, there's no alleys. So we just make sure that they're safe, they're good, and they're not leaking onto the street. But that's what I had basically for policies, but we appreciate the village of Crawford, your community helping us out. When these events come in, city's been really good with Tim. Rodeo, we make sure we get new dumpsters out there, we make sure to take care of all the waste. If you need more stuff like that for that powwow, you guys just get a hold of us, okay? We'll make this stuff happen, recycling. When that kind of gets some traction, we can kind of work on that. Now, Rushville, just to let you know, wanted to try the aluminum aspect of that. So, if you guys had a spot that you wanted one of those big blue aluminum, it would just be for aluminum. And we can try to fill it and see if we can work towards that. They've had theirs for a year and a half and it's about an 1/8 full. So it just goes to tell you guys can get the competition and get that. So it's a really good thing. Yeah, yeah. Cardboard's tricky. Cardboard, like I said, is a birthday thing, so it's just gonna end up in your. No market. For cardboard, just put it in your brown dumpster, break it down.
Because Jody, how much cardboard do you haul down to Scottsbluff from the food pantry?
Okay. Pick up loads.
Every third week.
Yep, and you take it back down to Scottsbluff so
Yeah.
that they can smash it up.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things, I'm gonna pick on Miss Grant here a little bit. There was a time, okay, she knew somebody that had a little compactor, and I don't know if that. It might be something to invest in, because here's the thing about cardboard, okay? You've gotta be able to have something that smashes it, bales it, wraps it, and you can hand tie it. You know, Safeway does it, they hand tie it and everything like that. But then it's gotta be shipped. Safeway unloads their food, and then they load the cardboard on that truck, it's covered. Okay, last shipment that we were doing to Keep Chatham Beautiful for Swan had been outside, because we have no storage, we have no shedding, we have nothing like that, it got wet. They shipped it off to Minnesota, they called us back and they said, you're gonna pay for every ton, because we won't accept it. That's when we said, no, this isn't gonna cost our citizens money, we'll put it in our own landfill. So that's the trick, is having the ability to put it in the bale and have it storage. That's the biggest things. Look for somebody to donate a building, I guess.
Just plunge them in town.
Yep.
Thanks, Jay.
Is that it? Okay, thank you folks very much, I really appreciate it. So, thank you for the pledge of allegiance in the meeting, that was probably one of the best I've seen, so. All right, I appreciate you guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Alright, moving on, number 14, Jake Tolman from Beach State Agency and Nate Fox from Mark.
Nate was unable to attend tonight, he's at the barn annual meeting.
They'll provide a comprehensive, or Jake will, on alarm insurance program, and cover key aspects of insurance offerings, including general coverage details, as well as volunteer coverage.
So last year when we renewed or got a new policy, the VMC had non-renewed the City of Crawford. And we've got insurance placed with Continental Western Group and Bitco on the work comp right now, along with another public transportation policy, because of some of the exclusions that ride on delivering passengers for fare, livery. And so within that, I had made the recommendation to reach out to LARM. Last fall, they requested loss runs. Over the course of the winter here, Nate Fox with LARM has been able to put together a packet. I didn't realize that was a situation where they were willing to work with local agents to be a part of that, and so from my aspect, that's something new in that. there are some key differences, and this first page is just a breakdown of what the alarm proposal is based on their 24-25 rates. And so their policy year runs from October 1 to September 31, which, am I correct, is that your annual year, your fiscal year as well? That's why that's set up that way. So they are willing to write a policy midterm and prorate that. But anytime you would want to get out of that, you'd have to give either 90 days or 180 days notice, and then they'd only release you from that on that October 1 of the following term period. There are some key differences in the pool. Alarm is a risk management pool, and it's run by a board of directors from member cities, and they only write cities and municipalities. With the caveat, they do have a program for fire departments. Talking through that with Nate, it's not really a good one. But on the city and counties, or city and municipality side, I think they do write the policy for Swan. Jake Stewart's been an advocate for them. But there's some key differences there, where with an insurance policy, your premium is set at the beginning of the term, and unless you change vehicles or those things of adding buildings, deleting buildings, there's premium differences there, but your premium is basically set at the beginning of the term. With the risk management pool, if they run into losses to where they deplete their reserves, there may be an assessment for additional premium due. So and the way that was set up, in talking with Nate over the years, originally when Alarm was created 30 years ago, they had 15 or 20 municipalities in that, and so there was more of a risk of not having that reserve, but there's also less risk of having a major tornado hit a large city and wiping out a big swath. Over that 30 years, they haven't assessed that premium, or that special assessment, but it is there. It would be assessed at the percentage of the total pool. So in this instance right now, their cost proposal here is $121,000. Your assessment would be based on what that percentage is over the whole pool. So I wouldn't even begin to guess where that's at. They have expanded quite a bit. There's a map a few pages back that says here's where we're at, and you can tell they've expanded quite a bit. They did just pick up the city of Alliance as well as the village of Harrison. With the state of the insurance market right now, and EMC's probably been the biggest player in the municipality realm in insurance, and their appetite has shrunk drastically. You weren't the only city to be non-renewed in the last year. That being said, if you look at the front page, really there's some cost differences in there. On the property side, Alarm's higher than the Continental Western Group right now. The liability's a little lower on the Alarm side. Now there's a couple key differences in the property side especially. Right now we've got a $5,000 deductible per occurrence with a $25,000 wind and hail deductible. That's still a per occurrence wind and hail deductible, but that's where we're at. The alarm side is a $1,000 flat per occurrence deductible.
So when you say wind and hail, if we had a storm come through like did in 2020, we've got all 1 billion buildings that we own get hit.
Right
Then
now-
that would be the 25 for the coverage of all the buildings, not each building?
Correct.
Okay, that's not bad.
Correct. Now with alarm, that would be a $1,000 deductible.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
Per thing or?
per occurrence. Yeah, so if you've got a water loss, it's $1,000. If you've got a, frozen pipe, that's $1,000 deductible. Hailstorm,
If you got 25 hailed out buildings, is that $1,000?
still $1,000 deductible.
Nice.
And so that used to be, and I think in 2020, that's where we were at with EMC. That's changed through the industry. Right now, alarm, Nate said he doesn't foresee that changing. That doesn't mean they won't. So when we break everything down, right now on the general liability, we've got a $1 million general liability with $2 million, $1 million per occurrence, $2 million aggregate on the general liability policy, and then a $5 million umbrella on top of that. The alarm policies don't carry the umbrella; they're just at a straight $5 million on the liability side. So it's very similar coverage in that aspect. It's not apples to apples. But as you can see, we worked down through, and given everything, we're within basically $1,000 one way or another. There is one point that concerns me just a little bit on the alarm coverage right now on the auto side. We've discussed the public transportation, and that's livery. There is a small gap in there of if the driver is helping load or unload from the vehicle, there's a small gap in the liability. And with the commercial auto policy on the straight commercial auto with Continental Western Group, they had that same gap in coverage, and that's why we went with a separate public transportation policy on that to make sure that all of that is there and in place.
Is there any sort of industry gap coverage that we could get for that difference? Or just public transportation, or is that just not an option anymore?
So right now we've got that in place, but if we go to alarm, I'm not sure that there is a company that will just come in and cover that little bit. Most of this packet just outlines what the alarm proposal is, gives a brief description of what the membership is, and they would have somebody come out from the risk management pool themselves to do an assessment on all the buildings, give you their assessment of what the building values are and how they should be insured. But right now, they've just provided that proposal based on what's currently in place. Same values all the way through on that. One of the things that I wanted to touch on where is that page? Okay, it would be this page here with the full proposal. It's about the third page back. Down on the bottom, there's an estimated contribution credit options. And so with alarm, as I said, you have to give them a 90-day notice to withdraw from the pool. There are reasons for that. It started back when they were smaller and they had the city of North Platte and 15 other smaller towns, and it would be a large hit to the pool if one of the large cities pulled out. and so they wanted to make sure that they had that 90-day notice. You can give a commitment of 1, 2, or 2, 3-year commitments with a 90-day notice, or a 2-year, 3-year commitment with a 180-day notice. That would give you a 5%, up to a 5% discount on their premium. Again, so this year, if we did this midterm, they would count that as year 1. Next year's policy would only have a 4% discount if you did a 3-year commitment. That's telling them that, yes, we would be a member of the risk management pool for essentially 3 years out. That's one of the differences with an insurance policy, that you can cancel at any time, or the pool where your membership is sitting out there on a dated deal. I wanted to get this to you and give you the information. It is something that we can do midterm. The policies at Continental Western and Bitco can be terminated midterm with the return of premium prorated. Right now, with an open claim, it's not advisable to sit there and make any decision at this point. But I did want to get this information to you so we can start a dialogue and get your questions answered.
Why would we want to cancel our insurance policy?
It would just be transferring to a different.
No, I mean, what would be the reason not to go with a 3-year commitment?
Not happy with claims response, or
in your experience,
that would be. So the other reason that you may not want to give a 3-year commitment is these quotes are for this current term year. The way the markets move and change, that policy could go up 15%, 35% for everybody that knows that a homeowner's policy is done this year. It may not give you that flexibility to define the best current option. As I said, we're within 1% one way or another right now. I was working with the Village of Harrison, and it was a far more no-brainer deal for them to move their policy along at the end of their term with the MC.
Would you recommend, so with the gap in coverage on the public transportation part, would you recommend continuing to keep the separate public transportation policy, or would you think it's not big enough to warrant that additional cost?
All I know is when there's a chance for something to happen, sometime something's gonna happen.
So recommendation would be continue to pay that additional policies?
That would be my take on that, is to have a public transportation policy that covers that for Liberty. Again, right now, there's really no action to be taken, but I did want to get this information to you and let you.
Is there a good date that you want to respond to, would be ideal for you to get a response by, or?
As I said, right now with an open claim, we really need to just kind of sit and let that one get itself worked out.
So more than likely looking at possibly changing, or looking at it closer to the next fiscal year.
I'd say I'm guessing within a month, we could make a decision, but yeah, that might make sense at the fiscal year or at the,
Termination of the other.
I think we're on the 919 right now, and so there would be a small payment to Alarm in that year, but, we can talk more as the claims process works out here.
Okay. So, while you're there, can you go through, how insurance, for our city works with volunteers, all that kind of stuff? If volunteers wanna use our equipment or their own equipment to cut down trees, move things, whatnot, are we legally covered insurance wise?
So from an aspect of liability on that, if they're working in the direction of the city, then the liability would be covered by the city. So in your scenario of cutting trees down, I would recommend that not be around houses, for sure. But in that scenario, yes, you've got coverage for, a tree falls and does property damage to a car driving by, or property damage to somebody else. From a work comp standpoint, that employee would be, it would be treated as an employee. Now the caveats get a little different if you've got volunteers for the Easter egg hunt that are on city property but aren't really working for the city at that point, right? But from, I know a few years ago, we had a resident that was willing to use the street sweeper on a volunteer basis. Something like that somebody that had been trained and had been in that role would be treated as an employee on work comp. Waivers are about as good as this paper. I mean, when it comes down to it.
Along that lines, I mean, we have a city employee that's not getting paid, they're using city equipment on city grounds, cutting down trees, not using proper PPE. They covered, not covered, well,
They're a volunteer.
They're volunteer.
That signed the waiver, like you're saying, so. I mean, we require our city park people, we just paid for this PPE gear, but now we're gonna tell a volunteer on city property using city equipment they don't need to use it.
But, from what I understand in talking to this individual, the chainsaw and stuff are his, which I've discussed with you, and at that point you said, if it's his stuff.
At that point, he's really on his own at that point. If he's using city stuff, then if the city has a manual on how things are supposed to be done and the PPE that's supposed to be worn, just because you're a volunteer doesn't negate that.
I don't think there's a manual on what you're supposed to wear either.
There's not a lot of policy coming in either.
All right.
On that, only thing I want to chime in, I know when we discussed it at the council level, we required our employees to wear specific safety equipment. Why would that not follow through in this scenario?
But as he said, if he's using his own chainsaw, then, or whoever, if they're volunteering using their own stuff, the way I understand it, that's at their own risk. When it's using our stuff, that's when it changes.
So we can allow Roy Norgard or Tony to cut trees down in the park, because they volunteer using their own equipment. That should be acceptable, correct? Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
I got a tree for you.
Alright, number 15. Alright guys, hold on. Number 15, discuss, approve, disapprove, updating, approve signatures at the rate. So, with changing from an interim, or position, interim clerk treasurer to a now hired clerk treasurer, all signatures at the bank will need changed for the, appropriate accounts and everything, so generally has the mayor, the city council president, and the clerk treasurer on.
Only thing I would say, Shane, is I don't have a problem with that after they're off probation. But while they're on probation, I don't think they should be a signature.
I think as soon as they're bonded.
They have to get bonded, so.
Treasurer.
Does that make it better?
Yeah, that makes it better. As long as they're bonded and we have a bond date, then I think we come back and then we make those changes.
And that's probably one of the first things I want to get after is getting bonded, so.
I would just make a motion upon bond being approved, that then said position can be added to that signatures list.
I'll second that.
So, DeBock?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes.
And Libby?
Yes.
Alright, number 16, discuss, approve, disapprove Dennis Croats and Edward Blacksheep attending AWWA Water Operator Training Workshop in Chadron on March 18th, 2025 for $65 per person. Edward, you got a question?
This training does include corrosion training and confined spaces training, which I think would be very important for us moving into the future. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there.
Alright, thank you.
And it does include continuing education hours.
Where's Tim on his continuing ed? Does he need to attend as well?
That's a discussion that we probably need to have a little later, I think, at this time.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Let me ask this. I know both of you guys are gonna be over there. Who's gonna be covering Crawford while both of you guys are over there? Or are you guys basically still gonna be on emergency where you, if something happens, you can come back?
Absolutely, as always.
State regs say you can be 30 minutes away, so they are within their limits.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Right, so Dean?
Yes.
DeBock?
Yes.
Gibby?
Yes.
And Grant?
Yes.
Alright, number 17, discuss, approve, disapprove quote for water plant compressor or compressor head.
So the new compressor for the sewer plant's $9,636, is that correct?
For the water or the
Sewer. I don't know which option we go.
9,636 for the sewer plant?
Sewer plant is 12,580.
No, on that, okay, so I give you a bunch of options.
Right.
Let you pick. From Omaha Pneumatics, the top one is the sewer plant for $7,948.80. The water plant is $3,975. Or you can go with the next page, the FS Curtis 6SJ7 for $4,295 for the water plant. So that's higher than the Omaha Pneumatics quotes. And that's just for the water plant. Compressor now has a sewer plant compressor for $9,636. or we did the option for the water plant on Liberty Supply for 9,000, which that is the exact compressor as opposed to the other two compressors that we have quoted for the water plant. They're recommended comparable compressors.
Do you have a preference?
I would go with the Omaha Pneumatics, both the water and sewer plant compressors there, just because the water plant and sewer plant compressors are cheaper there. The sewer plant is an exact replacement as opposed to the water plant only being a different style, but you know, it's an apples to apples kind of comparison.
You are sure that it is three-phase power going to both?
Correct.
But what I'm seeing is a discrepancy in some voltages. 230 volts versus 208 volts.
Yeah, on some of the additional quotes, we didn't, you know, put it in exactly right and get the right voltage back on that. But yeah, it was.
Well, that makes a big difference.
Correct. Correct. No, we're making sure we got the right number back on that. Yes.
Okay.
One of those is some of those quotes. It was just a shoot online, and this is what you have. And you have the different options of.
Yeah, they gave you all their options, is what you're saying.
Yeah, all that, and it just But yes, I would go with the Omaha Pneumatics, the first one that, you know, for the water plant and sewer plant compressor is the 12,500. So it's my recommendation. I just, like I said, was given options for all.
So the last meeting or not the last meeting, but the last meeting, we talked about these on, because when I was here, I wasn't here the last one, so. It was, someone came in and determined we need to change completely on our compressors, or is it still only the heads that are the issues? Just double checking, I wasn't at the last one.
We were just asked to.
Yeah, initially we were thinking just the heads, and then they asked for quotes for compressors and heads, so there's an option there for just the compressor heads if that's the route we go.
There were concerns that the air tanks could possibly be corroded out. They are 20 years old or whenever they were installed, so.
And I'm just asking, was there a company that was brought up at that time that could come and look at them and see?
There was discussion of having them boroscoped. We were pretty much instructed to put that off and
They never got back a hold. Did we send out more than once?
I called multiple times and just didn't hear back from that at all.
Okay.
They are out of Rapid. We can try them again. Otherwise, yes, there are the quotes for just compressor heads from Omaha Pneumatics as well. 4,500 for the sewer plant compressor head and 1,500 for the water plant compressor heads.
And due to the difference,
4,500 were.
Sorry, yes, 4,500 for the two compressor heads.
And you were saying that, I mean, remind me, you were saying that these compressors were already how old each?
The one at the sewer plant, I believe, was built with the plant there, which would have been 2013, I want to say, 13 or 14. And the water plant was built in 2001, so I'm assuming that one is similar age as well. And that's why we were having trouble finding the exact same model on that one to replace it with.
Well, again, the heads for just the sewer plant are 45.
Yes, correct.
To one, and a whole new compressor is $8,000.
Yeah. So there, it's almost better to go with a whole new compressor on that.
I think it kind of goes back to what you were talking about. We're near the life expectancy of a lot of things.
Yeah.
The air compressors are probably in that same category. I mean, those tanks build up moisture, and if you're not constantly draining the moisture out of them, you know,
And plus, both plants have been running on one side for how long? A while. Cause the other side's broke. So, I think we're on borrowed time as it is.
So, do we have a motion for anything?
Are there any other questions?
Or any other questions?
Do you see any problems with the Omaha pneumatics as far as wiring?
I don't remember the voltages for what the high leg is at either plant.
Is that something that you think we should do more research on before we commit?
We could approve it, pending verification that it's exactly this, and if it isn't, then we can make adjustments, but if it's exactly this, then at least if it's approved, we can move forward.
We gotta go, wire in when are we going to?
Jared was showing up.
Tomorrow morning, we have Jared
So
coming
we
in.
could get the answer tomorrow morning.
What was that you wanted, the high leg voltage?
Well,
Let's give him the whole quote and let him look over the whole thing.
Show Jared this.
Exactly.
I'm just trying to take notes, that's
So
all.
that he can verify that it's the correct voltages of what we're ordering.
Yeah.
And if he says yes, then
I'll make a motion pending Jared's approval that we go forward with the Omaha pneumatics and just go ahead and replace both air compressors and move forward. I would ask, next council meeting, can you, Dennis, bring a copy of your, most up-to-date budget so we can see how much money we're still setting on in the budget as far as the water plant? I know we've had quite a few big projects, and I would just like to see where we're at as far as our money. Yes. We'll make note of that.
I'll second that.
So Buck,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Dewey,
Yes.
and Dean.
yes.
So 18 was taken care of, along with 17. Number 19, discuss, approve, disapprove, quote for starter for backup generator for infiltration gallery.
I know, I thought about this one earlier today. We still have no way to wire that generator to the infiltration gallery, correct? Correct. Okay, I would say this gets tabled. There's no need to put this kind of money into a generator that we can't even use out there currently until we can figure out what it's gonna take, and possibly coming in with, say, a Generac generator to see what the cost difference would be to do this. I think we just table this for now.
Yes, Edward?
We did get an email today from the planning board for the infiltration gallery project. They wanted to meet with us sometime next week, I believe. They were asking us if we were available for a meeting. My question is, what would you recommend us asking or letting them know, and does anyone want in on that meeting?
Why don't you wait for one more? Yeah.
Ask for another 3 weeks, 3-week extension?
No, the next bullet point.
The next.
Oh, okay.
The next item on the agenda.
Oh, my bad.
So do you want them to have Jared go look at what it's gonna take?
Yeah,
to get
I
that
would feel more
generator?
comfortable knowing what it's gonna take before we invest a whole ton of money. Because if it's gonna cost us, $6,000 to wire that, just to be able to use this.
Then what's the point?
Yeah, so we asked.
My bad,
him
I
to
didn't
follow
realize
that.
we were-
I think he's working on that.
So no action at this time?
No action.
Alright. Number 20, discuss, approve, disapprove water infiltration gallery and moving forward with existing plans. So, as you guys know, we approved for JEO to put out bids. They selected their company, which I forget the name of their company. Rough estimate. Yeah, there we go. Rough estimate, $125,000?
No. 90, yeah.
92 for everything, that's, okay. 92,000 on everything. Anyways, I did reach out upon request to JEO. We can at any time, change some of the plans. per, Jack Baker. If we thought something different needed to be done or whatnot. There was some concern that, according to Bill Taylor, all we needed to do was fill in dirt at the spot that had been washed out, put some rock around or on it or wrap, and then cover up the pipe, which initially I believe was discussed when we first started talking about this. I don't even remember what month, but I think this was end of 2023, early 2024. Yeah, back May 23, I believe, on the big.
What was initially on there?
Yeah, May 23, because I was out at the site with him. Anyways, so question on this, or not question. It was kind of decided at a point that we were going forward, trying to fix it so that this never happened again, because we felt Band-Aids were not the way we wanted to go anymore. However, Bill's saying this should be sufficient and it could save us money just to do it this other way, so I'm bringing it back to see what your thoughts are.
Alright, basically, because it's in that same paperwork that I was reading earlier. I can read it verbatim here so everybody can hear it. Okay, there's significant corrosion around the outflow piping and manhole of the infiltration gallery building. System needs to address corrosion and prevent further issues with infrastructure. Yes, I don't know how that ties, I guess, directly.
Is it corrosion or erosion?
Erosion.
Erosion.
Yeah, erosion.
So between the draining and the river, it is back clear up on that pipe, so you have a significant amount with a large drop clear down to the bottom that is eroded. That's why we looked at what we went with, was to fill it back in and hopefully be preventative so we don't have this issue ever again.
Now, was his main concern, if I remember, was the fact that the pipe was vibrating and bouncing at the end?
I think mainly the main issue with Bill is that there is no support on that end of the pipe. It's, 5 foot hanging out or more.
I guess.
Edward and I were neither a part of the initial consult with JEO when they drew up the plans on that, so we don't know what was said in those meetings or how that went down as to why that was the direction we went.
However, the erosion from the building is not super far either, though.
I would say 20 feet maybe.
Yeah, so I mean, it does need fixed either way.
Yes, and the question is what is the correct way to fix it? Right. And how to do that.
I know $90-some thousand to do it the current way versus possibly if we brought in, say, trucks of rock and filled that section in that's eroding. I mean, what would the cost be?
The other proposal that was brought at one time was last fall, I want to say, before Tom left. He brought a person in that idea, yeah, I couldn't remember the name, Stacy Swinney presented, and said roughly 30,000, give or take. He said it might be more, or 29.9, yeah, but it might be more, it might be less.
And that was one where, if I remember, he was gonna hire Roger Roberts to
He
bring in.
Did I recall, he never specified.
We asked him a lot of questions and he wouldn't answer questions.
But the plan was to also use our equipment and some of our guys, if I remember correctly, he did ask for that. But there wasn't really a specific cost given.
Or
you know,
answers
he gave
as to
a,
what was specifically gonna be considered, it was just, you're gonna pay us the $29,999 and we will fix it. And he wouldn't answer proposals, questions.
and his exact words, it might cost more, it might cost less.
And he guaranteed it at 76 years old that it would outlive him.
So, I mean, we have looked into other possibilities. If this is the road we want to go down, it can be the main. I guess my thought when I was a councilman at that time was, let's keep this from happening again. I mean, it is our main water source. I'd rather make sure it's protected then, I mean, you can't guarantee you're gonna stop Mother Nature, but if you fill dirt back in where Mother Nature was, a lot of people are from here. It goes right back out in some pits.
And I'll say that at that time, that was the direction that we were trying to go to. We wanted to try and stop this perpetual Band-Aid that we keep needing to deal with because things keep coming up and not being fully, part of the solution. So we wanted to try and make a fix to an issue so that it was not gonna be a fix. We wanted it to be a 50-year solution and not a 5-year solution.
And if I could.
What's our goal with that?
If I could add one thing, if we got the water directed back into the channel where it's supposed to be running, that would, open up a spot where there's a great big hole there that, could be filled with riprap. It's a perfect place to get rid of concrete.
Place to put some stuff.
Well, I think that was gonna get filled back in a little bit on their plan, so.
Somewhat,
Yeah.
but we have concrete already, so.
So, when I talked to Bill, he had made the comment, basically, I see your guys' plan for this water infiltration guy, you guys are going way above and beyond anything I requested. He recommended putting the dirt back in there, basically bringing it back to the state of when it was put into play. So 20 whatever years ago, when was the infiltration gallery put in? Does anybody have a date or?
Was that one 1992?
Right after the flood.
Yeah, so 91, 92?
So he said that if we would have just taken his recommendation, packed dirt around the pipe, dropped rock back into the washout, then we would have never had to have any sort of state clearance, because we're bringing it back to its original state. We would have never had to pay the $20,000+ to the engineer, and by all rights, it lasted that long until the washout happened. So, we could expect to get a fair return on our dollar value. And he just said, and then the reason I'm even bringing it up to you is just because I know basically all the things that need to be done in your water treatment facility, that money could be going to the treatment facility, save you guys a lot of money right now. And I guess I wanted it brought back to the table, just I understand we don't want Band-Aids, but if it lasted that long and we can get away for that price for maybe another 20, 30 years, knowing all the issues that we have with the water treatment facility, can we ask the company that we basically signed a contract with to give us a price on doing exactly what is asked of us? Pack it with dirt, put the rock down in the channel, so they still have a contract. If they want out of it completely, even if you saved gave them $5,000 or $10,000, we still have $90,000, $85,000, $80,000, whatever you want to call it, to get this done for $30,000, $40,000, save $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, and use that money somewhere else. I just thought it would be a great opportunity to look at possibly getting some money back in our coffers that we don't need to spend right now. I guess a 20-year fix is not to me really a Band-Aid right now for the state of the city, the importance of the water treatment facility getting updated, all the work that needs to be done, getting these guys maybe a labor with that extra money, I don't know, but I just feel it's very important that we look at this a little bit closer.
I don't know.
Just on the recommendations.
I think it'll be
Yes.
more than a 20-year fix. I believe it is a cause of
Amanda,
not maintenance, though.
raise hand, please. Thank you.
I believe that it'll be more than a 20-year fix because these gentlemen are really good at preventative maintenance as well. So it won't get as bad as it was. So unless we have another huge flood, no matter what's there is gonna be gone. Whether it be the huge thing that we were planning or putting some riprap in there, it's gonna be gone. So if we put some riprap in there and reinforce that pipe, these two gentlemen are gonna check that pipe, and when it needs to get filled in, they're gonna make sure it's gonna get filled in. They're not gonna let it go to the point where it's at now.
And it might be one of those things like every year, we may have to go out there with a bucket load of rock and re-pack.
No, not even that. These gentlemen are gonna make sure it's taken care of, so you don't even have to worry about it. They are good at what they do.
Dennis, you're laughing, can I ask why you're laughing?
I
What
hate
is your
to-
thoughts?
I hate to tell you the exact opposite of that, because I was out there not 6 months before we got written up on this report, and it looked perfectly fine, normal, not an issue. And everybody knows I got that 2-wheel drive truck, so I wasn't making out there in the winter as often as I probably should have. And come spring, you know, we stumbled upon that and going, oh shit, what happened here? You know, it was one of those fluke things that happened in 6 months at a time, and we're going, how, what, why?
Yeah, but when we rebuild, if we pack dirt and do a rock slope all the way up to that pipe, I mean, there's a lot better chance it doesn't wash out.
I can't guarantee that it won't wash out.
We
You
can't
know,
guarantee anything.
a year or two later, as opposed to having it engineered, and having, you know, all the engineers back saying, hey, you guys said this was good, you guys are liable, not us.
Well, and that is
That's
another
On if the
reason why
side
we
of the
chose.
bank slips off and part of the angle of the pipe gets exposed. I mean, the same thing could
Yeah.
happen because you're running it 20, 30 feet
Correct,
down
I
the
don't,
creek.
I don't know, but at least with the engineer, I feel like they're liable then.
Jennifer Dean. So, I guess with working for the city and everything else and living here as a taxpayer, yes, inherited mandates, you've got the money, you've already earmarked it, you've already went through council, you've already got a bid, everything else, follow through. You've got storage drains that right now, if you replace, you're gonna pay 4 times what you would have done if you would have followed through the first time. If you're gonna change your mind, the only thing I ask is that the money that you put aside is earmarked for the water department or sewer. It's not used for rodeo or anything else. Again, big rodeo fan, love going to rodeos, but infrastructure is my passion right now, working at the city. You guys have a huge problem, as everybody's aware. So if you decide as a council to change your way, which I hope you don't, because you got a bid out there, let's get it done before the price goes up again. But if you do, then make sure the money stays with the water department, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if we change what we're doing, then we gotta stop everything and we have to rebid it for a new project.
From what I understand, we don't have to rebid it. He said we're able to change the plans.
He's probably talking about a change order.
Right.
And there is some legal concern with regard to the contract that we have with the contractor. That's whether he releases. If we would have to pay a penalty, I don't know. I mean, that would be up to the discussion with the engineer and the contractor. But it'd be a change order, I assume, is what we're talking about. So we do have a contractor, and he does that kind of work, so.
And most likely the supplies, the parts for this have already been ordered.
According to him, they have not. According to Jack, they have not.
Like I said, the only thing that concerns me is our absolute contractor.
I think initially when we approved them 2 months ago, we were talking about minor change orders here and there anyways.
Well, contracts have change orders all the
Change
time.
dimensions and possibly add the slide and that kind of stuff, so I don't think it's gonna be.
The question is the contractor gonna drop a $92,000 project to a $30,000 project? I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no answer.
So I guess, do we want to pursue finding out more information on this? Does anyone have a?
I'll tell you right now, I'll abstain from the vote. I just wanted it to be brought to the table, at least discussed, and if you guys want to continue on, you can continue. I just thought it was a.
No, it's worthy of discussion.
For me, I just want the best product that we can have, but at a dollar point where, you know, if we could possibly save money, you know, we do that. I mean, if it's not possible, I understand that, you know, but, you know, this is a huge project, you know, that could go 90,000 plus or 30,000, depending on how we take it.
We did get an email from the engineering company. They wanted to set up a meeting with Dennis and all the parties involved in this email. Is there a way that you guys can get your questions together and perhaps one of you would like to be involved in that conversation? Or is this something that you want us to take care of and come back to you with, or?
Let me know when it is and I'll.
Well, that's my question to you, is when would you like this?
They were asking us.
They're asking us to set it up.
Next week.
Early next week, is what they were saying.
Let me talk.
Anytime after 10 is what they
Let me
requested?
talk to my new boss and see which day open is
Okay.
available for me, but yeah, I would be there and could ask questions.
I would assume they're gonna have this at City Hall in the back office anyways.
know we don't wanna hit the pause button, but I think if they're willing to come in next week, a week's not gonna kill us. You know, maybe sit and listen to them, ask questions, and, you know, next council meeting, we can finalize everything.
I have concern putting pause on any of this. This project's already gone over for a year and a half. We are so lucky that by the minute, we haven't had a catastrophic failure with our 100% what we rely on for all of our water. We have been pushing forward and doing everything we can to be forceful to get this project done. We should be very thankful that it came in at 90 instead of at the 140 we were originally told it was gonna be. And I know I myself am thankful that it came in that low considering what we were prepared to pay anything around the 150 range. I'm thankful for that. If that means that we can get it done and feel like we did it even more so it has substantial, you know, time to it, that's wonderful. Now the reason why we went through the engineers is because this is on federal lease land where we have agreements with the Fort Robinson, with the state, it has to do with the river. I mean, there's just so many agencies that have to do with and touch through that area. It was in our best interest for liability so that way we knew that no matter what decision we made, it didn't come back on the city as something that we had to be liable for later. We could at least lean on the engineers. So for any additional money that we pay in that, I think that gives the city the peace of mind. I would like to move forward. If I need to make a motion, I can.
And on that, I've been out there, I've looked at it with Dennis, I've looked at it with Dan. It's not safe to be on the bank above that. We know that it's undercutting that bank and washing towards the gallery building itself. That water just needs to be relocated and get out of there, and then it needs to be fixed to prop up our building before we lose the building. This is something that we've been working on, like April said, for a year and a half, and I want it done, and I want it done right.
So do we have a motion on
Is that what you'd like? If you'd like a motion, I would make a motion that we move forward with the existing plans, please.
I'll second it.
Grant?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Dewey?
Abstain.
Okay, and Bob?
I'll say yes.
Number 21. Discuss, approve, disapprove cemetery deed for Dolores Huckett.
I'll make the motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Okay, DeBock?
Yes.
Dewey?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes.
And Dean?
Yes.
Alright, number 22, discuss, approve, disapprove, sending a letter to Old West Trail Rodeo to discuss renewing, updating, changing current MOU agreement.
I think that's just another contract of when we first came on, Shannon, that was something that we had said at the very beginning. There's a lot of contracts the city is in that are fairly outdated. And I think for the best interest of the city and all of the organizations that we have contracts with, that we should do our due diligence to make sure that they're serving both parties and they're updated. So just like we'd like to look into the WCB, I think it'd be great to look into and see if we can make sure that the rodeo contract's updated and works for both parties.
Well, I'm gonna need direction. There's a 90-day termination notice on this contract, which would be July, what's the date, 6th?
This,
Right, July 1st.
July.
So March, April, we gotta get a notice out. Doesn't mean that we're not gonna have an agreement with the rodeo. It just means we're terminating this agreement and maybe we need to talk about a new one.
July 26, 2005 was the initial signing date, so been 90 days
So
till
90
July
days.
26.
90 days prior to that, we need to give them notice. If that's the request, we can get it done now. We can get it done now and start talking about it right now. That's the request.
I'd make a motion for that request then,
I'll second.
if the timing's right then. Please raise your hand. You've got a phone call.
Okay, so Grant?
Yes.
DeBock?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
And Dewey?
Yes.
Awesome. discussion regarding city-owned property north of Crawford. So, we do own, I forget how many acres, north of Crawford. Cleared out on, Dawson, what's the name of that old road? Is that Moody Road out there?
North Moody Road.
North Moody Road. Sits, what, just south a little bit off of that?
South of North Moody Road.
And 500 and some acres?
584 or something like that.
Short of-
548.
it's short of a section.
It's short.
And it's four different segments from what or parcels.
4 parcels.
So anyways, from what I understand, appraisal for use for the villa to use it for a line of credit, roughly $300,000 is what they said it was worth. If I remember
On
the appraisal.
about, I think it was like March 27th, 2022, it was appraised for
It
approximately
is
that.
dated to the city and to the Congress.
Correct.
And the
It was
hospital.
given to us.
Oh, and
No.
the hospital?
Yes.
It was originally the hospital, where the hospital does not exist anymore, it
Right.
favors to the city.
It devolved to the city.
That
So
was never my understanding.
So city and
50% still bill.
50 villa, 50 city. So, I guess discussion, questions about what do we wanna do with that, if there's ways to maybe use it differently or whatnot to try to help our financial situation.
I'd say 23, 24 almost need to be discussed in conjunction with each other, just so that we can identify one with the other, but as far as the line of credit, with that property being the collateral, we did that at the time when the pandemic, we were waiting on pandemic funds from the government. We needed a emergency line of credit to be able to pay bills day to day until that money was received. At this point, do we need the line of credit anymore and that property on the line because the pandemic's long gone over and the villa had survived for how long without a emergency line of credit, especially of $100,000?
So that land was put up for collateral to not put the villa building up for collateral.
No, it was,
yes,
it was just put up because we had CDs that we would borrow against up until we didn't have a CD. So this line of credit isn't old.
Right, but what I'm saying is it was agreed to put that land up instead of the villa building itself, because that way, if there was a default, we still maintain the facility itself, and the land that we don't use would.
I never heard that.
Correct?
Yes,
Connie?
that's exactly
Connie?
what it was.
Yes, and there are some real estate realities to that property. It's unfenced, no water, and there's no access to it. It's not surveyed, so there's no boundaries on it.
Let me ask this question, because I don't know anything about the property. What are we currently using it for?
It is leased, currently to the Moody Ranch.
Okay.
Well, as of 2024, we're, looking 2025. But leased to Moody Ranch, and you guys lease it for, am I allowed to disclose?
Yeah.
Lease it for tax, right? What our taxes are on it.
The reality of it's got is they surround it,
Okay.
they control access, water, and there's no fence.
Really?
There was a time when the Moody's leased it for the taxes, and anything over that the villa got, and we had a fossil hunter here that would rent it to go hunt fossils on for $7,000. And we were able to receive that money, and she did it for several years. She's deceased now, so they don't come up and do that.
The high dollar fossil hunter was the gentleman from Hot Springs.
No, Helen Cosini.
She had it forever, but her lease was not the $7,000. It's a gentleman from Hot Springs.
I believe his name is Frank Garcia.
Frank Garcia.
Frank
Yes.
Garcia, but I think.
Helen's lease was like $200 a year, all the time. And then she didn't take it for a couple years. Mr. Garcia was interested. I think he was friends with Helen. And he came in with 5 or 7 or whatever, for 1, maybe 2 years, but I know it's longer, I don't know. And then he walked away too. The problem again is access.
Yeah, I know, it's landlocked.
Dan?
Is there currently debt through the villas on that asset?
Just
Yes.
what,
So
just the line of credit,
is tapped.
the line of credit, whatever the line of
It is
credit.
a cash flow issue.
Whatever the line of credit is, if you sold it, went through the process, closing date, the bank's gonna get whatever the line of credit's owed on that property.
They allow us to pull up to 100,000 on it, and as of the last few months, been just under 30.
And
That's
it's
been
valued
used.
at 3 as of 22.
For both entities. We
When
have
it was,
half of that.
when it was valued by the bank, when they set this up in May of 27 of 23, they said that they would be willing to secure the value tied to the line of credit as 300.
Is the city considering selling it?
That's the discussion.
That's discussion right now.
There's a process as well with the city on property. You have to create a resolution to sell a piece of property. You have to notice it for 3 weeks. And you have to wait 30 days, what's called a remonstrance period. If nobody objects in that period, statutorily amount a petition to not have the sale, then you go forward with your sale.
And it has to be a public sale.
It has to be a public sale, and you have to, in your notice, publish your terms of the sale, so you have a floor or whatnot. The last one we went through was the building over here by the villa. The other things to keep in mind, because of its situation, probably gonna have to be surveyed for boundaries. Fencing would have to be a discussion, and access. So a buyer's gonna have to be able to get to the property to get financed to buy it. Just things that come up in my world.
And to be fair, I did hear that the same fossil hunter's possibly still interested, so just letting that out there. So, we gotta get back a hold of him.
Rewrite the contract, look at the original contract with them, because it was set forth at one time and up to so much. They didn't have to come city for it as far as fossils. And when I was in the council, correct me if I'm wrong, Connie, it was a 3-to-1 as far as, well, that don't make a difference. Just let them take what they want from them. I think that's wrong.
And always in Helen's contracts, which predated my time here, which Harris had drafted, there were certain values, and if she found something of a certain value, she would have to share her spoils, so to speak, with the villa or the city.
Right.
That was a little different discussion with Mr. Garcia in the contract at the time.
Kind of like mineral rights.
To some, yeah, kind of like that.
Well, and the reason Frank Garcia didn't renew it after that first year was because he couldn't walk in. He wanted to take a four-wheeler, and he was told he couldn't. He had to walk in, and he said it was too hard on him and his people to walk that far to get in there, and they didn't get enough out of it to make it worthwhile.
So, ideas, voters,
I think it's a discussion, just getting everything out on the table. I mean,
Brainstorm. How much, as far as the line of credit right now, how much of that are we currently tied up in using?
It was 29,000 last, 27 or 29,000. But see, our federal funds reimbursement for Medicaid, Medicare, come in about 3 or 4 or 5 days after payroll. So you use it for payroll and then you go pay it back.
So we pay it off essentially every month is what you're saying?
No, it has to be paid off once a year.
Okay. And it hasn't been in 19 months.
We just renewed it last week because it was due on the 15th.
But it hadn't been paid off in 19 months.
Well, that's possible, but what they were
So,
gonna
I
do,
mean,
what
when
they
we
were
say we're
gonna,
supposed
what
to do it, but
they
we
were
aren't.
gonna do, they were gonna pay it off out of our checking account and then do it back.
It has not had a zero balance in over 19 months.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, okay. That's what, I mean, these are the reasons that we have to have these discussions, because, I mean, there was, December of last year, $99,679. We had $321 left on that account. And this goes back to just I know our issue, I'm not trying to dive into it, upset anybody, but the debt of the villa for 6 months that I've been trying to talk about, this is part of that, that we keep extending ourselves so far out on every aspect of the villa, but we don't discuss it. And that's why it's sitting here right now, like, do we need to sell the property to pay some of that debt? Are we so upside down on this thing that we can't recover? Do we need to start making these plans now? The line of credit, do we need to eliminate that completely? And I'm sorry, if that's a cash flow issue, then we need to figure out some other way.
How are you gonna get money out of the federal government?
We never had this line of credit directly tied to a piece of property.
No, we had it tied to a CD.
That was cashed out because we were losing money.
I understand, but we have
But
to
that's
have.
just, but that goes
We
hand
have
in
to
hand
have-
with this flow of conversation. We
Well-
don't have the CDs because we continuously lose money. Now we have a line of credit against a piece of property that we may lose $300,000.
You don't understand that nobody can, and it's not our just nursing home. It's nursing home all over the country because these nurses are going to agency or contract labor and they get about 3 times as much as we can pay.
What don't I understand?
That nobody can hire help. You
And we're-
probably have that in your business.
And we are losing money. I
Well,
understand that fully.
if we
I'm
could
it
get
seems
all
like I'm the
our-
only one willing to acknowledge that fact and have this discussion about this.
We deal with it every day.
But,
And
What, and I'm not trying to argue with anybody like you two are doing, but what are the solutions that you've put forward?
that's what I've been
No.
trying.
No, okay, and I'm not, I guess I am putting you on the spot. There's so much discussion about everything, about the problems, and it's you, and it's you, and it's your fault, and your fault, and your fault. That's how I feel as an observer. Somebody's gotta have some solutions in mind, sit down and discuss them, instead of just continually pointing fingers for the villa, for the water plant, whatever the hell it is. There's gotta be some idea of what can be done positively.
Correct, and that's what the discussion is, the key word to this. We need to talk as a group what we're gonna do. So the property, let's say we sell the property, let's say, and I think it's actually a little bit higher, I think it's like 380 maybe that was priced at or evaluated at, but it's set it at 300.
The bank said it was 300 was what I was told.
So they give a third, they can give up to a third as far as a line of credit against that. That's the most they're willing to give. But I mean, if we sold that, maybe we get 250. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, so this is the brainstorming you're talking about. So the bill then gets another CD for $100,000. That's their money again that they were borrowing against before. Then we use the rest of that money, the other 150, to possibly pay down some of the debt so we can extend this out even longer, try and figure out, buy us some more time. These are things that I think need to be discussed. And that's why I'm continuing to try and bring it to the forefront. It's not trying to point fingers. I'm actually trying to, everybody throw your voices out and let's hear ideas and suggestions and work this out. But if continually not talking about it, we went from $400,000 possible debt 6 months ago to now $650,000 of debt, but we haven't. It was as of December 31st, the financial
are not
report.
accurate.
Okay, well then that's even worse that we don't know how much debt.
The thing is, this is the first thing that the state has been able to help us with. The villa was on their own feet, they did it. And as in life, things have changed. And this is the first time when we came to the city and you were able to do something to help us. That $100,000 line of credit is very crucial to us at this time. We are going through yet another change. And we need a lifeline, and yes, we came to the city to ask for it, and I realize you're in a lot of your own debt, I understand that. We have 31 residents living up there that I just bring back to the table again and again. We had one that moved and with 1 week was gone. Moving these people kills them, I'm telling you.
I'm not trying to.
I know, Brent, but I'm just telling you, this is the one thing that we've asked of you. Is a line of credit.
But there's other ways. I just gave you another option of a line of credit possibility.
Well, you're not going to sell that land for 300 whatever thousand, I'm gonna tell you right
I
now.
didn't say 300.
Anyway, but that's all my thing is, that's the one thing we asked it for.
And,
I feel the best way to take care of these residents over the long term is to discuss the whole entire picture, which number one at this point is the debt. If we are not diligent as business owners, managers, leaders of the community, we are not doing our due diligence to help these
You're
residents.
exactly right, and we live with it
We
every day,
have-
Brent, and you have a big debt
And we're
too.
trying, that's why I'm talking, is trying to help that. So it's still here in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Like, that's what we have to have these discussions, these big picture discussions. It is a business.
If we hadn't hired contract help, we would be in the black, period, paragraph.
But as you said, that's not the reality of the world.
It is a reality in the world.
We have to hire top ed at this time. We don't have the employees, right? And that's what the bank does.
The problem is that there's more than one problem. And the problem is that our community relies on this institution to stay. We've got inheritance tax that affects our community and our county to a very prominent degree. We've got an aging community in Crawford and this area. Because end-of-life care is as expensive as it is, most residents wait till the last minute before they come to end-of-life care. So therefore, by the time they're there, they require very extensive care. If we get to the point where we have to consider shutting down the villa, it is not an easy process.
No.
So it's not as easy as just talking about the debt. You have to talk about the entire process. You have to talk about the debt. You have to talk about the receivables. The receivables we're still not getting from the VA, from the Medicaid, from Medicare, from all of the other places that we're still looking to get those funding back. You have to take a look at how the place is being, what our admin status is. We've struggled in the last 2 years with the company that came in and did not admin to the degree that we needed them to. And I get it, they probably didn't have the heart in it that we do. And I'm sad about that because they did a really poor job and they've set us up to fail. And they've set us up to fail in many different levels. We've got employees that are hurting, we've got residents that are hurting. It's from all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom, that has been affected by all of the mistakes that have been made over the last few years. This is not just a purely, we have bills and we cannot pay them. This is just catastrophically compounded on so many different levels. There's a lot of things that need to change in order for this to turn around. We're doing what we can, how we can, to make that happen. And it's not going to be an easy process. If we get to the point where we do have to close it down, that also is not an easy process, nor will it not cost the city even more than considering a new contract.
Because you have to do X number of days, and the hospital.
You have to actually
recruit employees.
You have to actually keep the facility open until every single resident is placed. In our region of the country, and I'm talking region, you can look at Colorado, Wyoming, South Dakota, and over half of Nebraska, and not many facilities have many openings. And even if they did have an opening, our residents are so close to the end of their life that you're right, moving them will kill them. And unfortunately, that's the truth of it. And that's really hard to make a decision against and to say that that's what they deserve. They don't deserve to live out longer time here at our facility. Instead, we need to move them so that they can have a shorter time. But again, I hate to even consider that we might have to be to that reality someday, but we're not at a solution yet. It might be something we have to consider. During that time, something else to consider. Any registered employee, an employee with a license, has to stay there from start to finish. If they are caught at any time leaving early or trying to cut out to avoid this, they will be blackballed and lose their license throughout all of this. They won't be able to go back into that profession. That's catastrophic to our employees. And they'll have to stay with it till the very end, which means at that point, the federal government has to step in and help finalize the closure of the facility too. This is not something where we just deem that we'd like to close it and it has to be closed in 30 days. This is a multiple year project if it has to be shut down. It's devastating. Not to mention all of our employees. This is the second biggest employer in our community. The second biggest. You talk about taking funds out of our community. How many of those paychecks are gonna have to go somewhere else, and they'll probably spend those paychecks somewhere else, because they'll have to drive out of town to have those positions. This is catastrophic in a lot of different areas. This is so much more than debt. So much more than debt. And I beg you, when you consider all of it, please consider all of it.
Yes, Tony?
I'm Tony Storbeck. You keep bringing up all this money that the federal government owes you. The federal government doesn't owe you any more money than the last quarter you filed for it. I talked to RHD when they left. They said the money you got is the money you're going to get. It went to federal litigation. It's closed. You got the money that you get. Yes.
That's EFC funds.
And that money is, so where's
There are
this?
4 other funds that we qualify for. Medicare, Medicaid, VA.
And
There are other funds that we are still due to.
So are you
We are
like
still
4
waiting.
years in the rears? Are
We
you
are
2 years in the rears? Are you a quarter in
We
the
are
rear?
still waiting for a lot of those funds, up to potentially $400,000 worth of those funds.
When RHD left, they knew all the
All
books,
I-
they knew all that. And they said that as far as the money goes, you're gonna have to build from this point. And that's the point of.
We are limited on how far you can retroactively
So,
build things and get
I
things
mean,
back. And that
I
is
would
another
like
layer
to
to the
see,
problem.
I guess I would like to see this 400,000 broke down and why the federal government still owes you $400,000. As a city, I would like to see that. You
When
keep bringing it up.
When you submit those funds, when you submit for payment to Medicare and Medicaid, you have no control over when they pay you.
Or how much they pay. They don't pay 100%. So
Correct.
it is,
So it's even more imperative to be more
But they
correct
won't-
in how it's done. If your employees are impacted and they're not given the tools and the administration that they need to do the most accurate job possible, we can be paid less funds as opposed to.
the realization is
There
you're
are
not probably gonna
compound
get
factors here.
$400,000.
Okay, I just wanna add one thing, okay? On a level-headed note, okay, the last thing I ever wanna see is the building close, okay?
That's all of us.
But I think at this point, we need to do an audit to see exactly where the villa's money is at.
It's on the agenda
See
for
where our
tomorrow.
bills are at, see what's
Okay.
coming, where's.
On the agenda
We
for
have a
tomorrow.
regular audit once a year. We have a cost reporting once a year, and that determines our Medicaid rate. And you understand now, we used to get Wyoming and South Dakota. Medicaid cannot cross state lines anymore unless they're under certain conditions. Because we used to have like 2 from Wyoming and 2 from South Dakota. That's a massive difference. And we also have a PBJ audit that we have to do. And the regular audit is in process. And we would like to hire a specialist to come in now that we need a new bookkeeper and see where we are, because I don't know if everything's been posted. I know that our financial has a CD on there for $858. We don't have a CD. So we've got to get somebody in there that can go through those books and see exactly where we are, because I don't know what has and has not been posted, and I can't check it out. But we're working on that. We talked about one last night, and we're gonna, on the agenda for tomorrow night. I haven't received anything back from that person yet.
Ron?
Okay. Just FYI something. Just so you know, the VA does not have to pay, and/or they can send you a bill up to 6 to 7 years later. So as far as the VA, you might as well wipe that one clean. That's just my opinion.
Which is why a lot of nursing homes don't take VA patients.
Exactly.
But that's
1%.
usually these for-profit companies, the Senex, that was the first thing, oh, we didn't get you signed up for VA. I said, we already are.
Again, going back to what I was saying, I think the first step to the solution, because the question's been asked, you know, how far in debt are we? We don't have an answer. We don't know that.
Well,
We have to have an audit.
At this time, what we can stand on is we can say that we have approximations. the more that we look into, the more we are finding that things don't match. So all that we can say at this time is that the numbers that we do have to be considered as just approximations. I've seen them come out in both directions. In the 8 I verified today, they all came out in different directions. They weren't what we had last been presented. And that is concerning. And that's why we'd like to find somebody that comes in and can, and they're not coming in to find major issues or anything that's extremely negative, and we're not headhunting here. We need assistance in coming in to say, you're missing this, this needs to be done so that you can qualify for this, or this is done inaccurately and it's counting against you. We need that to be completely combed through so that the processes can be done in a manner with a new employee, so it's in our best interest to help us bring stuff back to a functioning position.
And we've hired a company just to submit the Medicare and Medicaid claims, because one of them didn't have the right zip
And we
code.
have
They've got a
to-
separate zip code for assisted living as they do the nursing home. Or, yeah, or who would have ever thought that, but our hospice is all billed by the hospital. They do the hospice. And that's, she found out that the assisted living has a different zip code, and it's not the 69339.
It's not as a
Billing code.
It's a billing code.
Okay, whatever it's called.
But
I would just like to know an accurate assessment of where we're at.
So would we.
So would we.
Okay, and that's all I'm asking is if we can move forward and get an audit in place. So when we come to the table as council, we're not arguing, you know, you guys aren't arguing with us, we just have an accurate number. That's
So
all.
what's difficult about an audit is an audit just makes sure that in a sense that you balance, they're not necessarily looking for crazy inaccuracies or something that you're missing that you could be getting. They're not gonna look for stuff like that. So we want to find somebody who is more of an accountant specialist, so that way they can come in and say, hey, this is what you're missing, or this is what is going in the wrong direction, that if you make this correction, or if you do it in this manner, then that ought to help bring it back. So we're hoping to do
Thank
that
you for
direction.
all the hours that she's been.
and balance everything.
Need a balance sheet.
Yeah.
And I'm,
Expense.
that's where I'm at, because, I mean, say, this is just an example, I'm not using exact numbers. You know, say last month you come in and say we're at 600,000 in debt. You know, this month you come in and say we're 500,000 in debt. But everybody's saying we really don't know the real number. And we have to know the real number.
Correct, and that's why we were concerned, because as we were looking at the main sheets, we would also have a register of all the checks that would come through and say that, well, this was paid, this was paid, this was paid, this was paid. And as we look back to that main total outstanding, the specific for, you know, workshop A, and the bill would be 50,000 last month. Well, then we'd come back this month and it said workshop A was still 50,000. Well, how can it be 50,000? Well, we paid them 16,000. So we had reason to suspect why things didn't make sense, that we were being given the numbers. I think it's fair to say that it's approximation. It's probably in that range, but as far as specifics, we are equally as frustrated not being able to know and doing what we can to try and facilitate that change to make those corrections.
And as they said, it's on the agenda for tomorrow night, not at their board meeting.
Last thing, Brent, thank you for putting forward a suggestion how to solve the problem. I'm glad I got to hear I'm glad I heard what you said. I mean, I kind of understand it, and I appreciate you putting forth a solution idea, not just another problem.
And maybe I worded it incorrectly, I don't know, because everything I hear, the concerns that you have right now, the suggestions on how to look into how much we owe, these things, that's what I want. When I say I want to talk about the debt, I feel like these are issues that we could have all been talking about 6 months ago, or even when we first got that initial letter, and we were a couple $100,000, I think, at that time. From what I understand from speaking to certain members of the Villa Board over the course of this time, there's been ongoing questions about issues with billing or with how much debt there actually is. So I feel like we could have been addressing this a long time ago, I guess, and maybe I used the word debt too much and it's a scary word. And it goes hand in hand with what you're saying. I agree completely with the complications of having to shut down. I don't ever want to get there. I guess that's why I want to figure out what's going on, how much we actually owe, how can we get this debt paid down? Other suggestions on lines of credit, can we sell property, do we need to sell property? I don't know, but just to have this, like, I feel like we got more out and more production in the last 15 minutes talking right here, right now, than we have in 6 months, because it just has, we've literally been told we can't talk about it. And so I'm sorry if I get passionate about it, but as a business owner, I get the personal side of it, I get the business side of it, and as a whole, we can all talk, hopefully, and get things worked out together, because we have to figure out an answer, because we don't want to get to that point, we don't want to lose the residents and those types of things, so.
I think until we know an accurate number where we're at, then I think we'll need to revisit the properties at that time. Because if we get an accurate number, we can find out if we can possibly sell this and pay that debt off and come out, that might be an option.
Well, it would be wonderful to be able to turn things around and just fix them so that they're fixed and therefore not needed anymore, and the city can get rid of the property because it just is not of use to them anymore. That is, I agree, that would be wonderful, but we're just not at that state yet. We've made the necessary changes that, thank you so much, that we hope to be based in the right direction to make it happen. And unfortunately, some of the changes that we've had to make have had to wait so that we can prove that we've given all parties due diligence to make sure that they're trying to provide what they're trying to provide. And unfortunately, that's part of the process, and it's not a good process.
I got a question. Approximately how much would it cost the city to get a survey on the land, fence it, and get an easement?
Big bucks.
$100,000.
Here's the question.
Rough, I don't know, might be 50.
Well, the first thing before
Fence
we
is
do
gonna cost a
anything,
lot.
you gotta find out if the landowners that surround it will grant an easement.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, you're gonna have to buy an easement. The fences, we all know what fence posts cost these days. That's what I'm just throwing out.
Oh, I think it's what, 20,000 a mile.
I'm just throwing that out there. It could be way less, but the survey's gonna be costly. Because it is in 3 or 4 different sections. I don't know. That would be something that we would talk about as if we decided to move forward. We're gonna want some of those kind of things.
That's all I want. I want numbers.
So do we.
And really, you know, I've reached out to you in the past. I don't want you guys thinking we're bashing on you, because we are not trying to bash on you in any way.
We sure feels like it.
Well, I apologize if it feels that way. We just want to figure out where we're at.
Well, because the pipeline is nowhere near there.
Pipeline's not on that. There's no water. You'd have to
No
find,
water, no dams.
you'd have to see if there's water underneath it.
What's that?
You'd have to see if there's any water underneath it. The last well estimate I saw was 30 to 40 grand to drop one.
And is it gonna be good water?
The water out there isn't really, the groundwater out there isn't really drinkable, is it?
It's drinkable.
The
for
water,
cows, but-
the water that feeds the entire North Country comes from my house.
Right.
It grew him up pretty good.
That might be what's wrong with me. Alright, so nothing on 23 or 24? No action, alright. 25, discuss, approve, disapprove repairing the sewer line for city-owned property at 250 Main Street, up to $4,000. For the information, that is Rhonda's New Waves, the cop shop, and BNSF has an office in there. That building, has had some significant damage lately on the cop shop side.
It is owned by the property, and
But,
the city also.
yeah, the city owns it, yes. But, from what I understand on Rhonda's side, consistent toilet trouble. Thought it was fixed, now it's come back, issues. Wally scoped it, sees water backing up in it, which to him, he said generally water backing up means there's an issue. And he got to the T where it goes outside, so if water's backing up, there's an issue with the pipe outside of the building. Could have a outfit come in from Scotts Bluff that would water jet it, but that cost was
It's 900 minimum to come up, to show up, and 150
roughly,
per hour, not roughly, that's what it would cost.
well, it was 150 an hour, and, but you said it
3
was
hour travel time.
3 hour travel
That's
time,
450 and 450 driving the machine up here.
150 an hour, travel time for an hour is 350 each way, right?
Well, you got
But-
3 hours of travel time, we
Right.
figure an hour and a half up, hour and a half
Right.
back. And then 450 to drive the machine up here, so you're looking at minimum.
Right,
Is
so,
it, do you know if it's plate tile or not?
Wally,
It's galvanized pipe up to.
yeah,
the
galvanized
building
pipe.
and then clay pipe from there.
So, anyways, Wally's best recommendation is we hand dig it when it gets nice. That is actually Wally's recommendation. When it gets nice and fix the problem, put in new pipe. I was told that Dan Bryan thought he could get his backhoe in there. Well, I'm confirming that with Kevin, who told me. Dan could get his backhoe in there, or one of his small ones, and thinks he could dig it out.
It'll be
Is that correct?
$75 an hour, 3 hour minimum.
Correct?
It's the quote I got.
What's the weight on one of those machines?